Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Big Brother Retrospective podcast. We are, of course, here this week to talk about Big Brother 15, and we should have the appropriate background for that. So, welcome to 15 podcast. I'm your host, Taran Armstrong, and with me this week to talk about Big Brother 15. I've heard your favorite season? Is that what I'm hearing? Chappell loves Big Brother 15. Chappell is with me. How you doing, Chappell?
Yeah, I'm good. Taran, no, it's not my favorite season, but it's one of my favorite seasons to talk about because there's so much to discuss in Big Brother 15. And when we were told about this assignment that you're doing, Taran, this task, like, oh, Taran's gonna retrospect all these seasons and stuff like that, starting at season 1, which of course I was like, I ain't never seen that. But I knew that I had to come on to talk about one particular season, and that was Big Brother 15. It was my number one choice. People will say, like, Chappell, we thought you loved Big Brother 3. I do. I love that season for so many different reasons that I like talking about Big Brother 15. And I thought, probably a long line of people who really want to talk about Big Brother 15. Turns out nope, just me. I'm the line. Me and you, Taran. Number 1 and 2.
Yeah. So. Yeah, I'm pretty sure the visualization of what happened was that it was like Big Brother 15. And Chappelle was like, "I'll do it," and everyone's like,
"He did it! He said it!" They're like, "No, Chappelle, no. We insist, please."
Chappelle, you wanted it. Oh, that's such a shame because I totally wanted it. But you should totally take. That's you know what? I just have so much respect for you as a podcaster. I just feel like you should definitely have that one. I would be worse on it anyway. So like I just feel yeah, you should take. You should take.
Yeah. I was like, is Taran even gonna be there? So I'm happy that you came to join me on this journey because, from what I understand, Taran, a lot of people haven't even finished Big Brother 15 because it got a little hairy. And so hopefully this will shed some light on what people might have missed if they tapped out early.
Yeah, plenty to talk about with Big Brother 15. But before we get into it, Chappelle, I have the results from the audience voting for who they thought should be on the Big Brother 14 poster. Do you have a guess? What is your prediction? Top 3.
Did it! Boo, 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 boo. She did it. You gotta have Dan on the poster. Mm-hmm. Obviously, you have to have Ian on the poster as well. Mm-hmm. It's so hard to not put Brittany on every poster, right? Like, I mean, and she did basically just kind of like bow out of her season's poster and be like, no, put Kathy. So I'm thinking this time around, we pick Kathy. Put Kathy on the poster as well. And that's the big 3 here for me. But you have to tell me what the audience decided.
The audience decided Dan, Ian, and Brittany on the poster.
Not Kathy. Okay. Yeah. No one is shocked by this, right? But what did anybody just miss the cut?
Not really. Brittany was pretty solidly in 3rd. But I believe Janelle was in, hold on, let me pull it up. So I have the results here. Oh no, sorry. Okay, so here it is. Dan easily number 1, Ian easily number 2, Brittany easily number 3. Who do you think was 4th?
Gotta be Jody.
It was 100%
yes! Jody. Yes. It makes total sense. The lady is an icon, okay? She will go on to be on Big Brother numerous seasons. She will play no more additional days, but she will be, referenced in Big Brother history multiple times. And it's one of the more iconic players from this season, incredibly so. So, no, I'm not shocked by this poster. And I would say that, maybe Jody was robbed a little bit on this poster. It was just a bit. Yeah.
All right. Well, that was Big Brother 14, but we are now a year later talking about Big Brother 15, now in 2013. And I mentioned this before, but like weirdly, Big Brother 15 seems to be an entry point for a lot of people. And like it seems unrelated to the controversy. It just happened to be their entry point. I have to imagine that it was the entry point, not because of season 15, but because of season 14. Because the Dan's funeral and the Shane stuff made headlines. People were talking about it so much. by the time Big Brother 15 came back around, a lot of people I think were like interested in trying the show out, and it was just more like in the consciousness of reality television.
Yeah, I also have some other thoughts too. I for one believe that watching Big Brother is a team sport. Like Big Brother is better if consumed by a large audience, or you have people to talk about and argue with people. And I think Big Brother 15 is the real start. Like, I know you talked about how in Big Brother 11, the online community starts paying attention and maybe we start doxing people. Jacob Jones starts making his burner accounts. But by Big Brother 15, they're putting tweets up on the screen on episodes. They're like, it's interactive in that way. We get conspiracy theories, some people being pushed and that really being, hyped up and talked about in the community. And so I think for a lot of people, because you were able to engage with other people online on Twitter and in different forums and stuff with the different hashtags, it was very easy to be a part of the conversation. And so it brought us all to be a part of the conversation. And then even if you weren't watching the show, a lot of the stuff that happens in Big Brother 15 also makes headlines. And so I think people like who didn't watch it are like, wait, what is this? Why is this happening on Big Brother? Is that show still on? Let's go check it out. And then they go and they see, and get involved as well in the mob, right? Like the Big Brother army that's watching the show, that's arguing from week to week, that's so invested in people winning, but even more invested in people losing. So I think that this was just the perfect time for people to really get involved. And Big Brother fans are nothing else but passionate. If we're nothing else, we will argue to the death of us for like the most obscure Big Brother players, the tiniest moves, the smallest sound bites. And Big Brother 15 brings all of that to the table and just says, here, have a feast. And so I think that's why a lot of people were dragged into Big Brother 15 kicking and screaming.
Absolutely. I mean, the social media presence was really ramping up. And that's another thing that I hear is that even if season 15 wasn't your first season that you watched, I also heard that it was for many people the first season that they like got into the live feeds for, and definitely a huge part of that because when they're talking about getting into the live feeds, are they talking about watching the live feeds? Or are they talking about consuming the live feeds via things like Twitter? Because Big Brother Twitter was really starting to blossom in these places, and prior to really around this time, because Big Brother 16 is also going to be credited for bringing in a lot of social media attention with Frankie Grande and all of that stuff. But it definitely was here in Big Brother 15. In many ways, Big Brother 16 gets a lot of credit for some of the things that were happening in Big Brother 15. One of them is the social media stuff. The other is the implementation of new big twists that are manipulated by players in the game. But certainly here in Big Brother 15, we see a lot of activity, specifically online, where like before there were a lot of like little individualized pockets of Big Brother communities, Jokers, Hamster Watch, a lot of different places. And around this time, social media is starting to become more ubiquitous and centralized. And so everyone's now in the same space, and things are getting louder. And on top of that, it's not just that all the communities in the same space. The people making the show are in that space as well. And they're hearing things, and the network is hearing things, and actors are there, and journalists are there, and they're hearing things. And so a thing that I like to talk about a lot is that season 15 was not, it was certainly bad. And it was one of, I think, the worst we've seen in terms of the controversy that is on season 15, but it was not new by any means. The new and different thing about season 15 was not what was happening on the season as much as it was that there was a reaction to it outside of the season, outside of the house. And that is what made the headlines more so than the actual behavior. It was that it was actually being called out and people are actually paying attention.
Yeah, we got to start canceling people in Big Brother 15. That's the type of thing that really gets the internet going, is that like, not only are we able to consume a show, but what they do on the show, we can have an opinion about, we can have some type of influence on, especially in Big Brother 15. And if we don't like the way they acting inside the show, wait until they get outside the show and see what kind of chaos we've cooked up for those people. I think the Big Brother fandom is built on that. I think that every season we come in and we know We know we're all going to be very excited to see who the cast are. Everybody's grabbing their key, but then within a week, we're fighting. We are fighting, and there are people who are scourging the footage just to find a reason to piss people off, right? Like, hey, they said a thing that I think might be problematic. Let's all go get them. And there's a big subset of the fandom that is like, yeah, that's why I came here, because Big Brother 15 molded me. It made me this person, to where I feel like I have to be the one to punish you. And I think that although I don't necessarily agree with that attitude toward watching the show, I think that it would be crazy not to acknowledge it as one of the biggest I guess igniters of the community, right? It's just being able to get your pound of flesh when you see people behaving badly on television. I think that this is where the shift really does start. I think in the past we've had people like, you talked about Big Jeff getting away almost with, like, oh yeah, he did this thing on the live feeds, but the show was protecting him. So we never got to see who he really was. By Big Brother 15 was like, nah, we're going to show you who they are. We're going to record it. We're going to post it. We're going to talk about it.
To.
Yeah. And then Big Brother 15 had no choice, but to address some of these things. And that really changes the culture of how people watch Big Brother.
Yeah, absolutely. So here I am, now having watched Big Brother 14. I probably came into Big Brother 15 with some of the highest expectations that I've had since I'm a kid watching the show, and I'm ready to go. I've got the live feeds prepped and ready to go. I'm ready to watch this season, and we kick it off. And here's Big Brother 15. Here's the cast.
Woo! Steamy.
Yeah. You have a decent amount of fans on this cast. People who are like knowledgeable and ready to play. Andy, of course, one of them. Spencer, one of them. Howard comes on and he is knowledgeable and knows what he's doing. He's ready to play. Nick is seemingly very smart and really has a lot of ideas for how he wants to play this game. Judd is a big fan, talking about Dan Giesling and how he wants to be the next Dan. McCrae, of course, a huge fan of the show. And then, of course, on top of that, you have Elissa, Rachel's sister, who is here to play this game. You have Amanda, who is a huge personality and a very strong game player. You have Helen, who's like a political advisor, who's like, I'm gonna work this house. And so I have so many different people who are here to really play this game in a way that that you don't usually see. And I think that was in some ways, I would assume some kind of reaction again to Big Brother 14 being so strategy heavy that they really wanted to like capitalize on that success and that, sort of the pop that they got with that. And so I think they were trying to cast more strategists and more, fans of the show.
Yeah, I think there is a big difference in the gameplay that you will get here. That's why it's very disappointing to me that Big Brother 15 is as problematic as it is, because I think there's some very interesting things going on here gameplay wise. Not as much shenanigans from production as we've seen in the past, but like people who are like willing to roll with the punches and play the game. And to your point about Big Brother 15 kind of being the answer to, okay, we saw what strategy was in Big Brother 14 with Dan and all the cool stuff he was doing. Let's bring in more of that. This is the first time, if I remember correctly, they bring in Dr. Will to host the roundtable, right? And they're like, talk to the people about the strategy, make sure that they know that there are multiple ways to win a show like this. And I think it's very interesting that Big Brother 15 is one of the first times I remember ever seeing Dr. Will brought on in that capacity, if it ever happened before.
Yeah, I'm trying to. Yeah, you know what? Because it was a response to what happened with the jury.
Yeah, you got to make sure there's not another Dan getting robbed. So you bring in Dr. Will to say, no, it's okay to be evil and win the game.
Yeah, in response to Danielle Reyes, they introduced jury sequestering. In response to Dan Giesling, they brought in Dr. Will.
Icons. Game changer.
So yes. I think the thing that we've talked about this before, on this podcast, but something I think that we should mention up front is that there is, I think, like a distinction to make between the events of season 15, which we will talk about, and the sort of strategic story of season 15, because the thing that was always annoying was that, like, when you discuss this season strategically, it is really interesting.
It's a
Like
good season.
the way that the strategic landscape unfolds is really interesting, and that's unfortunate for not only because like the season sucks just from the people, but it also is unfortunate in the way that like how interesting this is leads into Big Brother 16, which leads into the new era of big alliances dominating. But because this was the fledgling this was the hatchling like little child of that strategy, with the person who like enacted it not winning because of what Andy was doing, but like it was the birth of that, which then Derek comes in a season later and just completely solidifies and dominates using essentially the formula that was developed in season 15. But in season 15 itself, really interesting stuff
Yeah,
is happening
yeah.
strategically.
The good shit. Yeah, we like Big Brother. I'm telling you, as a person who really, really hates a lot of the things that were said and done, and some of the people, I hate some of the people on this cast as well. Yeah, I said it. But like, as much as I feel strongly about those things, I'm always like, damn, you ain't never seen Big Brother 15? That's crazy. Because man, there was some maneuvering going on. There's a lot of alliances. There are people who are putting their personal differences aside to work with people that we just wouldn't see in Big Brother normally, right? We see people who are like, I'd rather go down with my ship than go align with somebody that I actively hate. We see all of that in this season. We see flips. We see our first ever jury buyback as well. We get Dr. Will, and then we get a winner who probably, I mean, gameplay wise, one time out by himself with no real final two. That, you know what I'm saying? Like just a mercenary in
How
the
dare
game.
you say that about Gina Marie?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But yeah, like a mercenary in this game, come in and play a game that's so divisive but so creative and so effective at the same time. It's like you really miss out on that because this season is full of a lot of dirty, despicable racism.
Yeah.
And homophobia, sexism, and a lot of other isms as well.
Yeah. I don't think anybody would blame you for not wanting to watch this season or for not finishing this season. But we are here to talk about it. So obviously, the big thing, I've already mentioned it, big twist of the season. Julie says, for the first time ever, it's not going to be 2 nominees. Is there going to be 1 nominee? No. There's
Right.
going to be 3 nominees.
Who
3
said
nominees every week.
Someone
I
literally said that on stage, and I remember thinking,
feel like it was
"Excuse
God
me?"
or something.
Yeah, like, what you mean 1 nominee? Go, shut up! Like, what are you talking about? Stop Big Brother.
So 3 nominees, and who's going to decide the 3rd nominee? The MVP, the best player of the week. And what a load of nonsense that was.
We didn't know.
They knew.
We didn't know. Taran, we didn't know. You probably knew, but I didn't know. I thought we were voting for the best player of the week. And this is where I got my crash course into the Big Brother fandom. Like, no. We will vote for whoever the hell we want, damn it. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what your criteria is. If we want to affect the game, that's how we're going to do it. We decide who's the best player of the week. I learned so much about Big Brother voting outside of the house, considering the way the MVP goes pretty much every single week. Like in the moment, I was like, what? Oh my God, this is crazy. But now looking back, I'm like, no, this makes total sense. It's so Big Brother.
Yes. This is, we talked about Big Brother 13 and how the decisions made by production were very sketchy. We then come to Big Brother 15, and they, to be fair, are not criticized as much for what they did here as they did before, because what they do is that they like, by giving it into the hands of the audience, they're like, look, it's you chose, not us. But what they did was they gave Rachel's sister Elissa carte blanche to just be the second HOH every single week, basically, because of course, as we talked about, Rachel Riley's sister Elissa Slater is cast on the season. Rachel Riley, a huge fan favorite after her time on Big Brother 13, and Elissa is given the MVP power by the audience every single week that it is available to give. And not only is that very predictable from the audience perspective, from production's perspective, almost instantly everyone in the house also realizes this is about what was about to happen. Everyone says as soon as they find out who Elissa is, they go, "Oh, so this is the Elissa Slater twist, not the MVP twist."
Yeah, but they got it. They understood that it's not about the best player. It's about this woman has a massive fan base from just existing and looking almost exactly like Elissa. And so it's like, I mean, like Rachel, Rachel, very polarizing character the first time she plays. I think she had a lot of haters. I think by the second time she plays, she gets a very favorable, run in her returning season. And then I think people, I think you yourself even said it, like you warmed up to Rachel the second time she plays, right? I think this is the perfect arc. I had Elissa Slater come on directly after Rachel the first time. I don't think she is the automatic MVP every week that you can give it. But this time around, this is at like the height of Rachel Mania, and so Elissa coming in, it was just like, man, she's gonna win it all the time. But these people thought we should weaponize that. And I was like, look at that. That's what I'm talking about, the gameplay.
Now, I want to be clear about this. To Elissa's credit, I think that very much on her own merit, she then became the fan favorite of the season. And I do not think that she owes any of that to her sister. I think that she very much was just won the hearts of like I would say most of the audience, and probably has maybe one of the most famous gifts from Big Brother of all time. With her spitting out the
Yeah, no, you're right. She was on the right side of history. I think that when we look back at Big Brother 15, there are a lot of people who got hate because of the things that they did and the way they acted. And Elissa was anti those people. And
she was one of the only people to come away clean from this season. She was the only person who was just like, no, screw Erin no matter what. I don't care how advantageous she is in the game.
Yeah, and so many people went back on that. So many people were willing to put their games aside, like their personal feelings aside for a game. And Elissa was not. Now, don't get me wrong. I was side-eyeing her when she gets to the jury house, and she's like, "So I think we're all voting for Gina Marie, right?" No, Elissa, we're not. But it's okay because your disdain for Erin is a part of the reason why we all love you, and we were able to overlook the Gina Marie misstep at the end.
All right, so let's get into the game then, because there's a lot to talk about. So first week we learn about the twist, and McCrae wins the HOH, and boy, a lot of the people I'm talking about are close to the end game here, so I apologize for jumping around the slideshow if you're watching the video, but McCrae wins the first HOH. And he is very quickly going to be invited into the early Bro Alliance, classic move that Nick is really spearheading. And again, Nick, I remember Nick a lot from back in the day, listening to the Dom and Colin podcast, and they called him something like the something shark of the season. Basically, like the guy that's just so obviously sharky that can't help but like try to sound smart all the time, and just like will so obviously stand out and be obvious in what he's doing. And that is exactly Nick. He came into this game, he was talking about like, here's how I'm going to dominate this game, and he had all these ideas. And basically his idea was, I'm gonna do the brigade. Of course, classic, new idea. And he creates this alliance with himself, Jeremy, Spencer, Howard, and they invite in the HOH McCrae, a 5-person Bro Alliance in the style of the brigade, where they're each going to have some people on the side. They're going to play all sides of the house. They call themselves the Moving Company.
Yeah. Prior to this is like, again, we're having more internet conversations about the show and strategy and stuff. And I think prior to this, people thought winning HOH early on was a death sentence. It was a curse, because you get blood on your
narrative
hand
for a long time. Yeah.
Right. And I think
the fact that Rachel just
exactly. Yeah. But I think this goes like was one of this is like one of the proofs of concept that no, winning the first HOH is actually very important if you're able to utilize it to get into a big alliance with competition winners. Getting in a big alliance and then none of you winning anything is not good. But if you're able to bring in people who can win competition to keep you safe, this is perfect. And McCrae winning this, he wasn't initially even going to be in the Bro Alliance, but because he won it, they saw value in him short term, at least for the first week, and they were able to bring him in on a larger structure. And so from here, we start talking about those like season after season, like who uses that first HOH or one of the first HOH to build a structure that they can really ride it out. And we will see that strategy done over and over again.
Yes. And honestly, I really like the moving company in the history, in the context of the history of the show, because it's the perfect example of a concept that I think is worth exploring, which is that we've talked about like the brigade style alliance, the parachute style alliance. Like 4 guys get together, they each choose a parachute, like a side alliance. This is eventually going to be adapted into the cookout strategy in the future. But then you also have the Derek style, the bomb squad style, the onion alliance structure style alliance. And that is just like a big group with a smaller group in that, and a smaller group in that, and a smaller group in that, and then there's just final 2. And that's like a different kind of alliance, but it operates a little differently. The purpose of the onion is that it keeps everyone in the alliance loyal because they think they're in the core, but they're not really in the core because there's actually a secret other core that's happening. It keeps everyone incentivized to stay with the alliance. It's good for maintaining the alliance. The brigade style alliance is great for having like a small group of people that have a much larger influence without needing to include all those other people and risk them knowing about things. But the issue with that one is maintaining loyalty with those people. And the only alliances that have succeeded in this style of alliance were the brigade themselves, who betrayed one of their own, but still made it to the end because they were just like bros, and they maintained that loyalty. You had the pretty boys who had Anthony and Big Brother Canada, who was really just like keeping the group together. You had the cookout, who were a bigger alliance and therefore harder to keep together, but they were bonded by something greater than just their own personal games. Then you have something like the moving company, and they had nothing keeping them together. They were a mess. They were not loyal to each other to any real degree, and because of that, they crumble very quickly. They are the perfect example of why the brigade style alliance is not just a given success. It actually does require an element that keeps people together, keeps people loyal in order for it to function properly. And the moving company did not function properly.
No, there were a lot of leaks here in the moving company. A lot of people started to get closer to their parachutes. And I think in the brigade, we really didn't see that. We saw people keep their parachute close, but they knew the end game was, okay, eventually we got to cut Brittany. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's going to happen. It's going to happen. We're coming to that. Eventually, Reagan's got to go. Those things were known. Whereas here, it's like, yeah, but I kind of like Caitlyn. I kind of like Caitlyn anyway. Well, I really like Amanda. Like, I think I'm just going to kick it with Amanda for a little bit longer. Like, a lot of that starts to permeate throughout the moving company very early on. And we see that moving company blown up relatively quickly. I think it's a strong alliance in theory, but the results do not reflect that.
Yes, and we will explain all the ways how it completely failed very shortly. So, McCrae is the first HOH. He is. I keep going to the wrong person. He is invited into the moving company, and predictably, now that he is part of the power structure, he's going to choose to nominate 2 people who are easy nominees. No blood on his hands. Nobody's really going to bat for these people. They're going to be Candace and Jesse, who are, for basically, Jesse in particular, for most of their games, they're going to be seen in this way as like they have maybe a couple of allies, but they're just not very powerful in the games. They're easy nominees for McCrae to make. Then we get into the MVP twist, which of course Elissa is voted as the MVP. Elissa at this point is becoming a target of her own. Her secret is getting out that she is Rachel Riley's sister. And people are starting to realize that because she's Rachel Riley's sister, she's going to be voted as the MVP. And therefore, initially, they're like, well, let's target her then. Like, let's get her out. She doesn't have any good connections to anybody at this point. And there's a lot of people looking at McCrae to backdoor Elissa and take her out of the game. She wins the MVP power and smartly decides, well, I'm going to try to use this to my advantage as much as possible. She goes to McCrae and says, hey, I'm going to admit to you, I'm the MVP. What do you think I should do? McCrae, who is going to take this opportunity to say, oh, well, you can take the shot that I don't want to take because I don't want to get blood on my hands. You should put up David. David being the big, surfer bro, muscly guy who is getting into a relationship with Aaron at this time. And he is the only person, basically the only like bro-y kind of dude not in the moving company at this point. And so it's like, why not take a big shot and we'll use Elissa to do it? Don't get any blood on her hands. What a brilliant idea from us. And so she goes ahead and she does it. She didn't really want to do it. She wanted to nominate Nick, the sketchy dude. But she was like, if I do what McCrae wants me to do, maybe he won't put me up on the block, which did not work because McCrae won the veto, took down Candace and nominated Elissa anyway.
Yeah, he didn't care. But this is like the seeds of what is going to be basically Elissa's strategy moving forward, right? It's like, if I'm the MVP, you tell me how you can utilize me rather than get rid of me, right? Getting rid of me is only going to give the MVP power to somebody that, and you might not be able to control who that is. Maybe you give it to somebody and they go rogue. Whereas me, you can count on me. I'm Elissa, and I'm going to get it every time because Rachel is my sister. So it's almost like you can guarantee that every week you have a say-so in who's going home. And as long as you can control the votes, then the third nominee can always be an option. And so she very smartly just, plays into McCrae's hands. So even though she ends up on the block, she's sitting next to David, and that's not awful for her.
Yeah. Spencer, part of the moving company, I think is often credited as one of the first people to start talking about this, that, hey, if we know that Elissa is going to win the MVP power every week, instead of voting her out and having the MVP power pass to somebody random that we don't know, what if we just weaponize her? If we know that she has nominating power every single week, then we can predictably use her to nominate anyone we want every single week, and the HOH becomes irrelevant. And yeah, of course. Why wouldn't you do that? And so, kind of with this in mind, a big alliance forms. And, of course, in classic Spencer fashion, it's a good idea that he does not benefit from whatsoever.
No.
In fact, the entire moving company putting in work to make sure Elissa stays completely backfires because they are not the ones in control of Elissa. It was pure hubris on their part that they thought that they would be able to control Elissa's nominations, especially when Spencer is openly talking about this as a reason to keep Elissa. Because, of course, instead of Spencer and the moving company controlling Elissa's nominations, it eventually became primarily like Helen and Amanda and that whole group that forms to keep Elissa here and to then use her nominating power.
But this is McCrae's fault. This is McCrae's fault because Spencer is talking about this with his alliance that includes McCrae, who should have Elissa's loyalty. He just, but he put her up on the block. So she has reason to be like, well, I trust Amanda a little bit more than him, or I trust Helen a little bit more than him. But then also, like, if you were the person she came to, McCrae, it's your job to keep her with the moving company. And you're right, Taran. There are two way bigger presidents in the house early on than McCrae, despite not being HOH. And that's Amanda and Helen. And they will fight for like house supremacy throughout the season. They'll work alongside each other, but in a lot of ways, they have their own ideas of how they would like to use Elissa and power moving forward. And so right now they're unified and making sure that they have power over Elissa and not the moving company.
Yes. And Amanda also has this idea that she would love to use Elissa as a weapon as well. And so she is definitely one of the primary drivers of this entire thing. And she's the one that wins the day with this because she gets up there with McCrae pretty early on. They start developing a relationship. And alongside their best bud, Andy, and Helen and Judd, they bring this big alliance together and they all vote to keep Elissa. And that sends David out the door in week 1. But it's a very split vote here. It's a 7-12 vote. So it's 1 vote. Sorry, 7 out of 12. 7-5 vote. 7-5 vote. And it is a blindside to Aaron and Caitlin and Gina Marie and of course David. And so that is so just to, because again, there's a lot going on here. So those were kind of, I don't remember, they like what, Blontourage or something was they were called.
The Blontourage, yeah, that was them.
Yeah. These are like your classic cool kid club members. It's David and his showman's Aaron. It's Caitlin and her showman's Jeremy. And it's
and
like
Jesse's there too.
Like the pretty people and the racists. And Gina Marie's there. So ostensibly Nick was one of those people as well. But really, he was working to sabotage them because he was trying to play all sides of the game, which Elissa saw straight through, and many people did. So they get betrayed, and the vote is 7-5. And they don't know where this came from. They are perplexed. In fact, they're so perplexed that when Aaron wins the next HOH, Aaron and Jeremy both sort of a co-win the next HOH, Aaron becomes the next HOH. Aaron is basically going, raise your hand if you voted for David or whatever. And many people are lying here.
Pretty much everybody. Pretty much everybody, minus like, with the exception of one person, is like, I'm never telling this woman anything. I'm going to take it to my grave. She will never know it's me that voted out David.
Yes. So like Nick is pretending he didn't vote out David because he's maintaining his cover. Spencer is pretending that he didn't vote out David because he's trying to maintain his. But this was the thing. Spencer didn't have that much cover to maintain, and so this was a little too cute. And we're gonna get to even how much too cute it was. Andy was somebody that they thought they had because Andy plays this game always playing all sides, and so he's gonna get caught voting in that direction. So there's many people who are pretending to vote, and Howard had voted that way, and he's trying to be coy with his vote. There's so many people being coy with their votes. And it's primarily moving company people because they're trying to hide that they in their minds orchestrated this. Andy is the only person really to have and this was the first moment that I, as a viewer, saw Andy and was like, oh, okay. He's got some game here. He has this scene where he goes to Amanda and he's like, I know a lot of people are lying about their votes. I also voted for David. But if everyone else is being cagey, then I think if I'm honest, that will give me some credit. And so I'm going to Aaron and I'm going to be honest while also lying my ass off about why I voted that way.
Right. And here it lies. This is the problem with Andy Herron as a Big Brother character and as a player and as somebody you got to watch on TV, is that Andy Herron, in my mind, this is the reason why we get the term rat floater. We've had floaters. But rat floater specifically is that's so Andy coded because I don't think people like the idea of this person can move around the house and get away with stuff, right? We like to see people get their comeuppance. We like to see people like, oh, you did a thing and now you're getting punished for it. Or now you have to figure out your way to get out of this mess that you've got yourself in. Andy was so good at doing just that, of playing all sides of the house and getting out of the messes before they happen, that it just infuriated people because they were like, how does he keep getting away with this? And so for him to be able to be like, no, I betrayed you and I'm going to lie and get away with it. The fandom is typing furiously, no, get him. He's right there. And Andy going in and be like, no, this works for me and nobody else. it's why people like almost love to hate Andy, is because he embodies a gameplay that they don't really respect. Floaters grab a life vest. Andy said, okay, cool. I'll grab a life vest and then I'll grab a boat, and then I'm going to win the game. And he will do that throughout the entire season.
Yeah, and it gets much worse for Andy in that regard. I think at this point, people are still mostly okay with him. People are pretty heavily against the moving company right now because the brigade is still pretty fresh in their memories, and they were very bored by their brigade by the end of that season, and they were like, "We are not doing a
We're not
bro
doing that
alliance
again.
thing again."
No.
Luckily for them, it doesn't play out that way because Aaron basically. Unable to really figure out who cast those votes. Andy's strategy pays off. She's not too mad at Andy. And instead, she just goes straight after Elissa, knowing that Elissa was the MVP. So she nominates Elissa and her closest ally, Helen. Helen and Elissa, I think they call themselves the Mom Squad or something like that. They are a duo for much of the game, and they're a very important duo. And they're nominated straight away. Elissa becomes the MVP again and puts up Jeremy. Now, there were some options like who should we put up? Jeremy? Should we put up like Nick? Like a couple of different ways to go about it. But Jeremy was seen as the biggest threat on the other side. He won the HOH with Aaron. It was like a duo thing. And so put up Jeremy, try to take Jeremy out of the game on Aaron's HOH. How annoying would that be for Aaron? But wouldn't you know it, Jeremy wins that veto. And because of that, Elissa is going to replace Jeremy with Nick for a few reasons. First of all, she tried to get him to throw the veto, which was a whole thing. But then most importantly, because she never trusted him, she tries to like develop some kind of trust. If I'm not going to nominate you, then let's develop some trust. She then asks him like, hey, if I don't, nominate you, basically, and I put up Caitlyn instead, Jeremy's showmans, will you vote out Caitlyn? And he gives her some kind of like non-answer, like, I don't know, we'll have to see. And she's like, well, all right, fine, then it's you.
Yeah.
And he goes up.
It's tough. It's tough because Elissa has power here, but also Nick is not everyone's favorite person in the house. Jeremy is not either. Like this was kind of like a perfect a perfect layout for somebody like Andy, right? Who wants both of these people out of the game. So the moment Nick is exposed, Andy's like, oh, thank God, let's get him. Also, with Helen being an option for eliminations, like we're not letting Helen go. So it's kind of like whoever's sitting on this block is going to be such a massive target. And Nick going here is going to ignite one of the bigger moments in the season as well, because Nick, he was a good kid. He was such a good kid. He had way more time left in this game. And honestly, I think we should commemorate him by saving his cereal, by refusing to, make people chicken parm. Let's just build a whole little shrine to him. 6 weeks later, let's still be talking about the sacrifices Nick Uhas has made.
So there's a few things happening here. The first is that the previous week, again, it all comes back to those votes, those rogue votes. Where did they come from? Spencer had this plan, which was, in order to maintain my cover with this vote, I'm going to tell Candace that I'm voting for Elissa. I'm voting Elissa. That's where the vote's going. So even though I'm voting David, after the fact, Candace, not one of the people I'm then trying to trick, Candace will be my proof, my evidence, that she will then be able to tell him, oh no, he told me that he was voting Elissa. Because if Candace tells somebody like Aaron that Spencer told her he was voting Elissa, there's no reason to doubt Candace, because Candace is, again, not on that side. Why would he lie to somebody who's not the person who should be lied to in that moment? It makes theoretical sense. The problem is you're not considering Candace in that equation and what she might think when she realizes that there are all kinds of weird votes going on. And one of the people who was being weird to her about like who she was supposed to vote, who he was going to vote, is all of a sudden saying, oh, he voted, but that doesn't line up. If he voted Elissa, where did all those votes come from? Was he lying to me? Why would he be lying to me? And Candace cracks the whole code. She clocks, based on this lie, that he must be working with some of the other potential votes that didn't own up to it, that they had planned it ahead of time Who are all those people? It's him. It's Nick. It's Jeremy. All. Oh my God! What if there's a guys alliance going on?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is the moment. This is where, like we talk about this alliance is just like it wasn't strong enough. It didn't happen because there's not enough snowing going on, right? Like you really need people, and when you have these big structure alliance with the parachutes, to be working all angles. Like it's not enough for Spencer to just tell Candace that. Candace needs to be his person, right? She needs to be thinking like, no matter what, Spencer's not lying to me. Where in reality, she looked at the cards on the table and said, no, this doesn't make any sense. He's definitely lying to me. And that's just not something you see with, the Derek Alliance, right? Like you just see him just like you work relentlessly on these people until you can lie to them and they don't ever question it, or they at least don't have anybody to turn to fact check. And it just worked out.
You just don't have to lie on unnecessarily here.
Yeah.
The biggest thing for me was that Spencer did not need to pretend to be in with the Aaron crew at all. He didn't need for any of that to be the case. But at this point, I think he was trying to play a certain kind of game. He eventually is going to pivot into a very different kind of game that is much more successful for him. But it's at this point that he's, I think, just biting off way too, again, in the same way that he thought it was a great idea to keep Elissa so that he could control Elissa's nomination, but he didn't control Elissa's nomination. He's just biting off more than he can chew at this point, I think.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't have Candace. Like he told her a thing and she figured it out. And you're right. It's gameplay from a fan. I think Spencer being a fan, this goes to show you kind of the things that fans cook up because they're playing hard this season, Taran. That's one thing you can't say about every season of Big Brother. There's a lot of people in the last season you talked about that were just there. And I don't think you can really say that a lot of people in Big Brother 15.
Yeah. Well, so Candace cracks this code. She's talking to Helen about it. Helen, of course, is in Elissa's ear. And that's one of the reasons why they're gung-ho on making sure that one of these guys is on the block and one of these guys gets sent home. And so when Elissa approaches Nick about like, are you willing to do this? And he's like given this non-answer, it's because he doesn't want to get caught playing both sides by telling Elissa, somebody he can't trust, information that would condemn him with the Aaron crew. And at the same time thinks, if she nominates me, whatever, I've got my numbers. Turns out he didn't have his numbers because he was the second person evicted from this game. And it just all comes crashing down. The rumors are starting to be spread that there might be a guys alliance, and Amanda's starting to press McCrae on it. And, Candace is starting to press Howard on it. And Spencer is seeing the writing on the wall himself. And he's seeing that like, this thing is coming crumbling down. I don't think we even have the votes to keep Nick anymore because all these people are convinced they need to send Nick home for fear of a potential guys alliance. And even if there wasn't a potential guys alliance, he is still ostensibly on the side of like the Aaron's crew. So they're not going to vote out Elissa or Helen. They're going to vote out Nick. And so with that in mind, Spencer jumps ship and he votes Nick out too. And Howard is like, oh yeah, I need to jump ship too now. And the biggest thing, of course, is that McCrae jumps ship first. That's why they don't have votes, because McCrae wants to jump in with Amanda at this point. He is eventually going to admit to Amanda that he was in an alliance called the Moving Company. And just like that, the whole thing crumbles. The alliance shatters and Nick is gone. Just like that.
They all fold. They all fold here, and they will continue to fold the very next week. With the elimination of Nick here, it's like, okay, cool, bet. But then there are some people who are not in on the Nick vote out who will then, after they see who wins HOH next week, they're like, oh no, I too have to throw the guys alliance under the bus. It just implodes, and it happens so quickly that it's like it could have been a very successful alliance, but now Nick going out as like kind of like the CEO, as he would call himself, of this alliance, it's a big blow. And it definitely, with the next HOH win, will lead to some more I guess some more obstacles for this already crumbling alliance.
Yeah. So McCrae admits to the Moving Company. Spencer admits to it. And unfortunately, Howard does not get that memo. He is going to continue to deny it to all of his allies. And it just completely screws him over here. And does not allow him to pivot in the same way that Spencer at least tries to. Luckily for Howard, he still has a good connection to Elissa at this point, but which is going to keep him off the block this week. But this is a brutal outcome for Howard here.
Yeah, not great, not great. With Nick gone, we will see that people aren't taking this lightly. People don't like that David has been blindsided. Now Nick has been blindsided. The cool kids are kind of crumbling right before our eyes. And so people like Howard, who are able to move kind of away from those people and separate themselves, they're going to be targeted for doing just that. Because Gina Marie is not going to be happy about Nick Uhas getting voted out at all. And with the help of her friends coaching her along, literally feeding her lines to yell at the other house guests, war is being started in this house. And it's going to be Gina Marie, Aaron, and her crew versus everybody else.
This chicken palm is for you, Nick.
Yeah. Tell them they broke your trust for the last time. You broke my trust for the last time. Yeah, that's it. Like that the whole time. They're just feeding her it's like she's like a ventriloquist dummy. It's like say something to Gina Marie and she's gonna yell it out to everybody else, and she does. So the line is drawn in the sand. All the cowards are up there. The Long Island is coming out of this woman. The Italian is coming out of this woman, as she will say, and she's letting them all know that they will pay. They will rule the day that they voted out Nick Uhas.
Yeah. And of course, when Helen wins this HOH, this is when things really get bad because while all of this has been happening, there's been this undercurrent. There's been some momentum building online talking about some of the things being said in the house. Words here and there, different attitudes, jokes being made, and they're starting to go into like these compilation videos, and it's starting to spread around, and it's not just spreading around online, it's now starting to spread around the house as well. That like, hey, there are some inappropriate things being said. I honestly don't even know how to say half of the words here without like demonetizing this video probably. Like,
oh, okay. I'm glad you warned me because I was about to just start spouting off some shit. I was about to start letting them have it.
If you haven't seen the video, or if you don't know, if you just saw like maybe the episodes, basically anything you could imagine, like any offensive thing that you've ever thought of in your life, it was probably said in the house. Any possible group you could target was targeted. Racism, homophobia, misogyny, like every corner of the board was covered by many people. And even when it was addressed, as we saw in, I think, an episode, like Amanda going to Aaron and being like, hey, I don't think this is a big deal, but just so you can, like, just to give you a heads up, other people are saying that you may be saying some things that might be offensive. And Aaron being like, oh my God, that's so annoying.
So obnoxious. Oh my God. To even insinuate that all the racist shit that I'm saying is racist. Oh my God. How dare you? Y'all are attention seekers. You know what?
Mm-hmm. And of course, like, and this is the real like insidious nature of this, that, Candace and Aaron never had a very good relationship. But as soon as Aaron now hears that like there's a problem with how she talks about Black people, now Candace is like the devil to her. Now she really sucks, because how dare she say something about me in that way? I'm not racist at all. I'm just from Texas.
And as a Texan, Taran, that's why I had to show up for this podcast. And I had to make sure there was some Texas representation on here to say that, that's not indicative of all people from Texas. Not even all white people from Texas.
Chappell, Aaron did make one apology after the season, a very important one. She did apologize to the people of Texas.
Because she's from Texas and she know better. You know what I'm saying?
She said in her interview, I'm just from Texas. And Texans took offense to that. And so she said, I'm sorry, Texas. I didn't mean to imply.
When you said every corner of population was offended, listen, I just got getting left and right. I'm Black and I'm from Texas. I was like, what? You come from my skin tone, but not my state. It was very much like, no, get her together. Because what are you doing? Aaron is a very interesting character in this season, because Aaron, what people probably don't realize about her is she's very scorched earth in a lot of the things, right? If you do a thing that pisses her off, she leans into it. In the very first episodes of the show, she's like, You don't really hear a lot of her interaction with Elissa. On the feeds, they were fine. But when she finds out that Elissa is Rachel Riley's sister, her demeanor in all the diary rooms, if you don't believe me, please go rewatch the season. It completely changes. She's talking so much shit about Elissa that it's just like, I can't think of anything lower to do but to bash this person just because she has a famous sister, and she will claim, oh well, it's because she lied to me about it. It's like, yeah, why wouldn't she lie to you about it? But also look at her face. What are you doing? She looks just like her. Like, if you got lied to and got tricked, that's on you. But she felt like it was a personal attack on her that she lied. Like, to think of you would think we were that stupid to not know that you're. I'm like, Sari played Big Brother with her son sitting next to her with the same exact face. Like, you never know how stupid people are. But all that to say, she acts the exact same way with Candace. Once she finds out about this, now she's like, I'm gonna be more racist. How about that? Like, oh, you thought I was saying racist stuff about her being so black you couldn't see her in the dark? Wait till I go flip over her bed and call her Shanae or Shaniqua and say, what you gonna do, girl? What you gonna do? Like, Aaron, girl, we see you. And the crazy part about it is that she was offending so many different populations that everybody on the outside was equally mad. Like, it was like, okay, you might have pissed off the black folks. Oh, now then you pissed off the gay people. Oh, you pissed off the Asian people too? It's like, well, you probably haven't pissed off the whites. And the Texan said, not on my watch, Aaron. Shut it down.
Yeah, and just to be clear, it was not just Aaron. It was a lot of people in that house. I don't think the video actually still exists. I think it was taken down by CBS.
I'm sure there's more.
I'm sure there is a version of it that exists somewhere.
But Taran, to your point, it's Amanda Zuckerman of all people who goes to Aaron like, hey girl, this racist shit you be doing is like, you might want to chill. It's probably bad for TV. And Aaron's like, girl, whatever. And in this moment, again, this is a polarizing fandom. This moment, people were like, I like Amanda because she told her what it was. Amanda not like Aaron. No, she might be the queen that we need to be supporting here. Amanda's got a good eye for things. And God, how quickly we have to shift here in this fandom, Taran.
Yeah. Very few people on this season can claim kind of innocence from the things that were being said. So, of course, when Helen wins this HOH, everybody's pissed off. Aaron's side is pissed off. They're like trying to claim the beds and stuff. And we get the mattress flipping incident, which Chappell has already reenacted most of at this point. And of course, Howard comes in and he has to carry Candace out. It's harrowing to watch. And especially when you then see Howard talking to Candace about like, please, like, can we like try to not, rise to that? And she's like, why is this on me? And he's like, it shouldn't be on you. And he's in the diary. I'm like, I'm just trying to play this game. And now it's like, there's so much other stuff I have to deal with that I would much rather not deal with, that I have to deal with in real life. And now I'm dealing with it in here too. And there's so much going on here.
Right. And this will lead to a lot of changes that we will see in CBS as far as casting and the way they handle these moments in the future. Because to me, yes, there's a lot of racist and awful things being said in this house and being done to people in this house. But I also don't think it should be the player's job to have to navigate whether I'm willing to put my game at risk to stand up for myself on a personal level like this, right? Like if it's game related or whatever, then fine. But if it is just these remarks are being made and they're insensitive in front of me, and I know that if I say something, I might be the ire of some retaliation, then I think production has a responsibility to step in. We will see people later on in like a Corey Wardenberger who will say, out loud, like, I don't think that's cool, and have, maybe production have their back on saying stuff like that and saying like, okay, okay, we're going to react to that. Not to say that production always handles it correctly, but it's a far cry from what it used to be, which is deal with it on your own and hope you don't lose the game.
I mean, it was, to my memory, it was basically the company line to this point was like, well, the reason we're not showing it is because they're not talking about it. So what, how can we show it? Like if nobody's talking about it, then what can we do? And then before that, it's just not interesting enough. But like, yeah, the issue is like, in order for somebody to talk about it, now they have to be the ones advocating for themselves, whether it's in the house and potentially damaging their game, or to the public and face the kind of scrutiny that the public will have for you if you're the person speaking out about racism. And so absolutely, there is a shift, not quite as big as it should have been, in the direction of production taking more of the responsibility for this kind of thing, on top of taking more responsibility for showing this kind of thing. And all of this happens because of the live feeds and the fact that people can actually see this stuff when it otherwise, I fully believe, would have just been hidden, like most of the other stuff was, and like most of the stuff is in other shows. And it wasn't until people saw the live feeds and started very loudly complaining about it that they finally started to include it in the episodes, and they started to change how they operate.
But yeah, but initially, by production taking responsibility, they meant completely acting like they didn't know and had nothing to do with anything like this, right? Like they put up that disclaimer, like, "Hey, by the way, this has nothing to do with this."
That was their first act, was the disclaimer that went up.
Please don't sue us. It's not us, it's them. You know, crazy times that we lived in, but that disclaimer lives on.
So Aaron and Caitlin are nominated by Helen, and Elissa is the goal for Elissa as the MVP for the third week in a row is to take out Jeremy. Jeremy's the ideal target, but he won the veto last week. They don't want to give Jeremy the opportunity to play in the veto. So Amanda, who has really at this point taken the leadership role of this big alliance, is pushing Elissa hard to put up Howard. Why? Because Howard is the person that did not admit to the Bros Alliance. Howard is not, Spencer has kind of kowtowed. McCrae opened up. So Howard is the person that should be on the block in order to backdoor Jeremy. And this, again, this is the same week as the bed flipping whole thing went down. So for that reason and others, Elissa just feels closer to Howard, and Elissa puts her foot down. It's just, screw you, Amanda. Like, I don't want to put Howard up. I don't care if he's not the initial target. You're telling me that he's the backup target if something goes wrong. And I don't want him to be the backup target, and I don't want to put him up. So she refuses, and she puts up Spencer as the pawn instead. And this is a really key moment because it's the first real big schism between Amanda and Elissa in the game, one that is going to haunt really the both of them for most of the game, but particularly Amanda.
Yeah, and I mean, Helen had her own reasons for wanting Jeremy out as well. You know, when like I said, when the house folds, right, and everybody starts admitting to the guys alliance, Jeremy is one of the people who comes to Helen like, "Oh yeah, there was a guys alliance. Those people are crazy, right? Like so we can still work together." So Helen knows at that point, like, she can't even trust them. So this is Elissa and Helen's alliance really doing what's best for them instead of what's best for Amanda. And we don't know this about Amanda yet. This is where we're learning this about Amanda. But Amanda is a mob boss in Big Brother. She does not play like a game like many other players that we've seen in the past. Amanda is going to strong arm her way through this season. And so if she cannot come to you and just basically force you to do her bidding, she's not going to take it well. And yeah, right here, this is going to be, like you said, the initial crack in the Amanda-Elissa feud. And Amanda will immediately start saying awful things about Elissa. You know, it's just, she just doesn't do well with any type of adversity to what she wants to happen. And Amanda is a very fun character to talk about, but she too has her very problematic things about her game and her personal, her personal interactions in the house too. But I think that Amanda goes on to be one of the players that people, if they could overlook some of the stuff that she said, then they would be like, bring Amanda back. Like, I saw a big contingency of people that was like, prior to Vanessa, Amanda was the girl that they wanted to see both play again the most.
Mm-hmm. And so Spencer goes up, and Caitlin ends up winning the veto, actually, which means that Helen can replace Caitlin with Jeremy up on the block with Spencer and Amanda, and they all vote Jeremy out, except for Caitlin, who votes for Spencer. And Jeremy is gone. Jeremy, had plenty of his own problematic, words and behavior going on. But he is backdoored unceremoniously here, and that is basically the end of Jeremy.
Yeah, Caitlin tried to put up a good fight to keep Jeremy in the game, but by winning the veto, it was kind of like either you take him off, or you take yourself off, and he goes home, or you leave yourself on, take him off, and you go home. It really got to that point. This is a moment as well where it's like, okay, this is really good for someone like Andy. The show doesn't really talk about Andy much. They don't show him much in the game, but people like Jeremy, Nick, they really weren't in his long-term plan. So even up to this point, nothing is really going in the way that Andy wouldn't already want it to go.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of Andy's game right now, he is everyone's friend. Everyone is including him on everything, and that becomes important very quickly. I think, in fact, it becomes important like very, very quickly. So we will get to it very soon. But Jeremy is out, and Judd wins the next HOH. Judd, an important person to talk about here. As I said, Judd, a fan of the game, comes in and really, gets in there with this majority alliance, and is really like in a position to capitalize on this rift between like the Helen Elissa side of things and the Amanda McRae side of things. And really navigates that decently well. He's included in a few different options. There's an alliance that is made between with like Amanda McRae and Andy with Judd. Even though they don't like yeah, that's a Goof Troop. Goof Troop.
The Goof Troop?
Goof Troop.
Yeah, the Goof Troop.
It's a little bit short-lived because ultimately what this week shows everyone is that Judd is just too likable and has too much power, and so they kind of drift away from Judd and go back to Helen for a time. But basically he nominates Aaron and Caitlyn, and then with the plan that Elissa will have like this third nomination, except Elissa's not getting called into the diary room. She's like, normally I'd be given my MVP power by now.
Right. By now they told me that I was the favorite person in the house, and I think that's a little jarring too, Taran. And like it's about Wednesday, I should be like, it's like Monday night. I should have got a call by now. You go to the diary room, knocking on the door, like, hey guys, MVP here. Did y'all miss it? No, she's not the MVP this week. For the first time ever, we've got a new MVP.
Yeah, new MVP, and it's not Elissa. And so they're all kind of like, well, who is it? And nobody's copping to it. Who is the MVP? They get to the nominations or veto picking ceremony, I think it is. And they're like, oh, we need to reveal the next the MVP's chosen nominee. And up on the screen, Elissa has been nominated by the MVP. And what a turn of events. What could have possibly happened? This is a mystery that the players will be trying to solve for the rest of the game, really. But unbeknownst to them, the way that the MVP twist worked has changed. Instead of America voting for one player to be the MVP, to choose a nominee, America has now become the MVPs themselves, and they are now voting for their chosen nominee. But if that's the case, why is Elissa Elissa's, who's been voted as the MVP, the favorite player all season long, is now chosen by America to be nominated? What happened? And that is a mystery that we have never fully solved. But the leading theory is this. Because Judd was the HOH and had already nominated Aaron, as Julie tells us, Aaron had received the vast majority of the votes to be nominated. It was directly following that week with the mattress flipping incident. She had the most amount of heat on her. America overwhelmingly chose to nominate Aaron. But because Aaron was already nominated, it had to go to who was in second place. And because everyone chose Aaron, the only people left are the people who did not choose Aaron, aka the people who didn't mind what Aaron was doing.
That's normal.
Or the people who did not get the memo that the voting had changed, that instead of voting for the MVP, they were voting for the nominee. And so they were still voting for Elissa the same way that they had been all 3 prior weeks, only this time they were inadvertently topazing themselves and voting for Elissa to be nominated. And therefore, Elissa ends up nominated.
I mean, personally, I like like this one. I like this discussion better. I like the idea that this is just that we just be voting, and I think in the future we will see that kind of echoed as well. Like maybe the person at the top of the pecking order or the top of the list will get voted for a lot more. People will vote for the people that they know, and not really pay attention that they should be choosing, the person going on the block instead of America's favorite player or the MVP or whatever the case may be. So I definitely believe that a lot of people voted for Aaron because they understood the assignment. A lot of people voted for Elissa because they did not understand the assignment. And then there's probably somewhere in that Venn diagram a group of people who understood the assignment and wanted Elissa up because they didn't have a real issue with Aaron or because they like to see wild swings in the Big Brother game. We've seen that before where people will vote against whoever is in charge, whoever is running the game. We will like, okay, F it. We just want to make the game as complicated and as volatile as possible. So we'll go and put somebody up on the block who is normally not in danger. So we've seen all those things. And I think maybe all three of those things will interact at the same exact time, leading to the person goes from being the MVP to the nominee.
Yes. Now, ultimately, this isn't going to matter at all because Elissa wins the veto. And then the next person needs to get nominated by America. And that person is Gina Marie, which makes a lot of sense.
We fixed it.
Truly the best set of nominations all season long. Aaron, Gina Marie, and Caitlyn on the block together. Now, this is going to be Caitlyn's time. You might wonder, why? Why would they vote out Caitlyn over Aaron? Aaron, who now known to be one of the biggest, comp beasts in that era. Why would they take out Caitlyn? Well, the answer is at the time they didn't see it that way. They saw Aaron's win of the week 2 HOH as really Jeremy's win because again they won it, they co-won it, and Jeremy was the big comp threat. Meanwhile, Caitlyn had just won a veto and had come close in winning a bunch of HOHs. And they really saw Caitlyn as the stronger competitor. In fact, they referred to, I believe, Aaron as that like twig, like that little girl.
Puny little
she's not going to win anything.
That was Judd. Judd, how dare you?
Judd was making that case. And so there's again a couple of things happening here. One is that Howard and Spencer are trying to resurrect their games by creating this alliance with Caitlyn and in them by trying to keep Caitlyn around. And in the meantime, they're on the other side of things. Amanda and Helen are trying to work Aaron, and Aaron is willing to jump ship and play ball at this point. And Helen in particular makes a deal with Aaron that like, hey, if you first, I think it was like, I'll throw the HOH. Then it's like, if you win the HOH, let me pick your nominations. And Aaron agrees that she will nominate Spencer and Howard for Helen if Helen helps keep her this week. And so, it all kind of goes in that direction. The votes stay strong. Howard and crew ultimately have to capitulate, and Caitlyn is evicted from the game instead of Aaron. Now, at this time, there's a lot of conversation about like, is this like an okay thing to do morally? To like Helen's like, I don't like what she's been saying, but I need to do what's best for my game, and stuff like that. And so ultimately, the decision is made. Aaron will stay, and Caitlyn will go.
Yeah, I had a good dislike into Helen this season because I wanted her to be more resolute in her, her disdain for some of the actions going on. But like I said earlier, that's not the player's responsibility. It's really the production's responsibility to not make Helen choose between good gameplay and potentially getting rid of somebody who is problematic. Like that shouldn't be on her to do. But I can acknowledge that in the moment I was like, damn, Helen, like what you mean you want to keep Aaron? Now, for someone like Judd, who I think he kind of had like a flirt dance with Aaron at different times, like I remember like thinking, okay, for Judd it makes sense, even though I would really want him to, you identify that she's doing a lot of problematic stuff and get rid of her. But people like Helen and Judd are choosing their own game and saying like, Aaron is good for us. She can win stuff. And on top of that, they looked at her actions, the racist stuff and all the other problematic things she said and said, this isn't a threat to win the game. Like, who's going to vote for her? And so thus she can be as awful as you want to be. look, as long as she's here, like, who cares? We will see. That's kind of the similar conversation that Howard is having with Candace. Like, can you not go there with them? We gotta kind of put our personal feelings to the side so that we can win the game. We will see that as well in this conversations about keeping Aaron over Caitlyn. It's like, yeah, she sucks, but I mean, is she gonna beat us? Probably not. And so Helen has now tried to weaponize our new comp beast, Aaron.
Mm-hmm. And ultimately, this is going to be Helen's downfall. Like, it is this decision to try to weaponize Aaron and take out people like Howard, because ultimately, and this is the real, I mean, it gets ugly here after the events of the earlier part of the season. Back-to-back HOHs from Aaron and Gina Marie that are going to send home Howard and Candace. And this is really where Helen loses the game, in my opinion, because ultimately Aaron is going to betray her, and she will have really wished she had kept Howard around, who was at the time trying to rally the troops against Amanda and McCrae, who were the cause of her downfall. So this alliance that Howard was trying to put together was an anti-Amanda alliance. At this point, Amanda was known as the mob boss, and they were trying to build this resistance to Amanda. And of course, who do they decide to bring in to help bolster their numbers to go against Amanda? Well, one, Andy. Andy, this is really when things start to ramp up for Andy. This is when people really start to notice Andy, because at the time, people were very excited about this. They were very excited about Aaron leaving via this alliance. They were excited about Howard and Candace and like all these people like working together and being on the same page and like revolting against Amanda, who is becoming unpopular as the dominant force of the season, to take out Aaron. This was a very popular idea, very popular movement, and the person that really put a stop to it was Andy, because it didn't benefit his game.
Yeah. He liked Caitlyn, but he really got he really got kind of outflanked here with the Aaron thing, right? Like, so it's like he had a really good relationship with Caitlyn, and I think it would have benefited him to get Aaron out as well, but not as much as he would have liked. Like, I think that's where he wants to go, but this isn't a negative thing for Andy at all, because he's good with everybody in the game. Well, this is bad for Elissa for sure, because she gets kind of outed as the person who is trying to make this big. She's like a never Aaron, right? Like, she's like never Aaron, no matter what, she needs to go. Andy's kind of like, damn, I guess it got to be you, Caitlyn. But make no mistake, I'm running back to that side too. He will say later on that he cringed at Julie calling him a floater, but the man was floating. He was floating his ass off.
Well, basically, the key part of Andy's game that will continue to be brought up over the course of the season is that for as much as Amanda was the person running the show, she was, in my opinion, nothing without Andy.
Right.
Like the entire house was trying to revolt against her, and it was Andy that was able to put a stop to those revolts every time. He was propping her up as a power piece to be used and then eventually disposed of. And maybe there are arguments to be made, like how long was he really planning to take out Amanda? Was he really planning to do that until later? Certainly at the time, people thought, and this is part of why they really didn't like him, they thought that he was just simping for Amanda, that he was just enabling Amanda, and he was the piece that was constantly allowing her to continue to get away with stuff. And people were so frustrated with that, because they felt like he had no winning position in the end game if he let Amanda dominate. That ended up not being true, and so a lot of people ended up changing their minds about this, but a lot of people still feel that way about Andy and how he played the game. But this is really the first instance of it that basically, like, because Andy had so much social capital. When I say that he like put a squash to this revolution, what I mean by that is that like they felt like without Andy, they didn't have the numbers, because Andy was like a representation of like where the house stood on things. They didn't see how close he was with other people. They thought he was close to them. And if Andy wasn't on board, that meant that people probably were just not on board. And not only that, but like he would then run it to Amanda. Amanda would confront people, not reveal that Andy was the source. Other people would get in trouble for ratting, and in the meantime, Andy's just helping bolster this, conflict between two sides while maintaining his position in the middle. People continue to come to him to try to go against Amanda. He will continue to rat them out, and he will never get caught doing so, which only further frustrates the audience.
Yeah, because we want the good guys, quote unquote, to win, right? And we're looking at, the anti-Aaron group as the good guys. And Aaron is now aligning with Amanda, who we also have seen and said some cutting things and done some, some things we don't really love as viewers. And so it's like, yeah, you running back and trying to save them every time is really starting to piss me off, Andrew. It really is. But he was doing it in such a way that it was like he was maintaining his relationships with both sides. But people were primarily seeing him as the Amanda protector, and we want our pound of flesh as Big Brother fans. And so it's like, you got to stop the flip from, like, he keeps stopping the flip from happening. We love a house flip, the way we watch Big Brother now is like we literally are just like we're hoping and praying for like some chaos, right? A house flip, and it would be like, okay, we got some motion. And then somebody goes to Andy in the middle of the night, like, hey, Andy, I think it's time to get Amanda. And he's like, no, it's not time. It's not time at all. They're like, yeah, you're right, Andy. That's crazy. And then Andy will go back and be like, hey, that person was trying to get you. And it's so frustrating to watch, but it's also really good gameplay on his part. What people don't realize is that Andy's number one ally in a weird way is Amanda, but it's also Helen. He's aligned with both of them. He knew Helen before the game started. They had met before, once before in like casting or something like that. I think I saw it on one of the other videos I had watched before this. And so he had like that built-in relationship to where he could play both of those sides off of each other, and they both trust him. And so Helen would try to make a move, but say, like you were saying, if I don't got Andy, I don't want to do it. And not to say that I don't, like, you might not necessarily even need Andy as a number, but just not having him as an ally in that move, it made it uncomfortable to make those moves. And so he was in a really good spot.
Andy was firmly planted in the middle of Amanda's side of things. And again, it's part of why with Andy really pushing Judd out so that Helen could come back in, maintaining his position in the middle instead of allowing Judd to have a position in the middle. It really... And this is a failure of the moving company, who thought we'll have two sides at war and we'll be on both sides of those two sides. Andy was that, but he also maintained on one side all of his closest allies that he was in the middle of there, maintaining that onion structure, only without being in control of it. So yes, ultimately, Caitlyn is voted out here. Amanda's side wins the day, and Aaron goes ahead and wins that next HOH, sticking true to the deal with Helen, who feels like she has control over Aaron at this point. She nominates Howard and Candace, that is not great.
Nope.
Sorry, Howard and Spencer. Howard and Spencer were nominated. She eventually nominates Candace after Spencer wins the veto.
Yeah, I mean, this was Helen's plan, right? Like, I can get Aaron to do my dirty work here. Elissa is very concerned because she just kind of got outed as the anti-Aaron person, but Aaron sticks to her guns. She like actually goes through with the Helen plan of putting up the people who Helen wanted out. Like you said, you cite this as one of Helen's big mistakes, and I definitely agree, because these are not the people that Helen should be targeting now.
And she was close with Candace. Like, they had such a... Remember, Candace is the person... Helen is the person Candace talked to about exposing this alliance. But eventually, Candace kept siding with Howard, kept being close with Howard, and Helen did not trust Howard. Again, partially because he never admitted to the alliance. And she was still too locked in with the Amanda side of things, who were all pushing Howard as well. And Candace was like, Howard needs to stay. We need to go against Amanda. And Helen was like, not yet.
Not yet. It's not time yet. But Taran, America gets a nominee.
Yep.
And this time, America got it right.
Well, they can't nominate Aaron again because Aaron's HOH.
Yeah.
And so
Elissa's not second, and she's not second on the voting ballot this time. I think we figured out our mistakes from last week. I think we all got together as a fandom and said, that was tough. Let's do something different. Let's spice things up. Who can we come after who would just take this the hardest? Who would really just embody the type of vitriol we have for this season right now? Who can we plant this on? It's
America loves trying to pick out the person they think will be the most mad. Wouldn't you know it?
Mhm.
That's Amanda.
The boss. The boss. Oh, and she takes it so well. She is pissed.
The way she takes it, in my opinion, guarantees that she gets picked again the following week.
Absolutely. I'm picking Amanda every time. If they do MVP next season, I'm voting for Amanda. Like whatever. Like this is
She's
perfect. This
basically
is
like,
where we lead.
who dares do this to me? Because she thinks it's somebody in the house. No,
Yeah.
the audience would never vote for me to be the least
Right.
favorite, surely.
I'm not the worst
So
player.
it's got to
I'll
be
take
somebody
them.
who's hiding it. She starts to get suspicious of Judd, and that's causing some issues. And of course, Andy is going to continue to sort of sprinkle that because he's kind of pushing the Judd thing right now because Judd is it's sort of like a June, the Allison to his June, trying to play a
Uh-huh.
similar kind of game. And she's pissed. So she's up next to Howard and Spencer. And after Spencer wins the veto, she's up against Candace and Howard. And again, there is a push to try to get Amanda, and it comes from Candace, who's trying to protect Howard. And Howard's like, "Yes, let's do this." And Spencer is on board, and again they go to Andy, and again he goes back to Amanda, and Amanda confronts Spencer, and she is pissed at Candace. And this whole situation continues to devolve, but ultimately, once again, they do not have the numbers, and Howard is going to be evicted.
Huh. Amanda coming at people just scorched earth about this is so funny because again, she is the mafia boss of the season. She doesn't go quietly. She's going to make sure like she rampages around until she gets to the bottom of this. And although Howard going here is great for somebody like Amanda, the sting of being nominated is just something that she's never going to live down. And considering she's going to get it again right after this, it just goes to like it really bolsters this run that she's on as just like this person who's in control, but as a tyrant in the house. And I don't really know if we've seen a lot of tyrants in Big Brother to this point. We've seen people lead from the front. Maybe like Evil Dick is probably the closest thing, right, to Amanda to this point of just somebody who is in control, and there's nothing you can do about it. Everything they say, and people are afraid to even utter the words Amanda. Like they're in confessional telling us in the diary room, yeah, I want to target Amanda, but that's scary. Like people are literally using the word scary, like she about to attack them because she could. That's just what Amanda could get away with. And so yeah, had to pour one out for Howard. I always thought Howard was kind of like it was cool, like I never thought Howard was one of my favorite Big Brother players, but you also have to wonder how well of a game he could have played if he wasn't in a house where he felt like so attacked on a personal level all the time.
Yeah. And then we get to the next week. Gina Marie wins the HOH, nominates Candace next to Jesse. We haven't talked a lot about Jesse yet, but Jesse was basically from day one, as I said, she was nominated as a pawn, stayed on the block to be one of the potential people voted out that week in week one. Just never really found her footing. At various points tried to jump onto different alliances, but was always an add-on. And because she was often discarded, she ended up in a few different attempted groups, and that only got her in further hot water. And because of that, she's an easy pawn here, as is Spencer for much of the game. Ultimately, though, it is Candace who is the target of Gina Marie. I wonder why. And wouldn't you know it, Amanda is in fact voted to be nominated again. In what might is certainly a comment on Amanda and how she responded to the first one and her own behavior, but also a comment on how quickly people kind of move on and forget about things, because this was the first time Aaron was actually able to be nominated by America, and they chose not to.
Yeah, we move on. That's indicative of the fandom at large. Like this person pissed me off today, but I'm willing to play ball with them next week because I hate the other person for what they did tomorrow. I think that we saw that in Paul's second season, right, with Cody Nixon, I think his name, right? Like how in the moment the fandom hated him, but the longer he was anti-Paul, the more people was like, oh, I think he's actually giving America's favorite. I think that's what I'm getting from him. It's like, how do we get there? But people, like you said, how soon they forget. This season, this week is iconic because Candace has to wear the clownatard for a week. And so while all the ridiculous racist ass fighting is happening, Candace is wearing an afro, a colorful afro and a nose and a clown outfit as she's going out of the door, bickering with Gina Marie the entire time. She doesn't even get through her speech, her nomination or whatever, her pre-eviction speech without Gina Marie and her going back and forth. Like, I'm talking about yelling at each other. Julie's like, break it up. And
Spencer, please.
Yeah. Like, yeah, what is Spencer supposed to do? Right. And so it's like, yeah, she's dressed like a clown, but she doesn't care. Taran, I believe she becomes the first member of our jury, and this is a huge jury for Big Brother. I think this is the biggest one that we have to this point.
First 9-person jury, I think.
Yeah. So I don't know why that is.
Well, again, I think there were some jury changes after what happened on Big Brother 14. They thought this might help.
Yeah, they're like also maybe Aaron doesn't win the season if we have Candace on the jury. You know, like maybe we don't have to explain to people at the end of the day how Gina Marie is the winner if we have Candace on the jury, because Howard did not make it, but we need some representation. So maybe that helped.
Yeah. Jesse does win the veto, or I should say gets the veto. Takes herself down. Spencer goes up as the replacement pawn. And Candace is voted out here, despite, again, some attempts to try to flip this vote onto Amanda, which, again, is pretty much shut down by Andy and others at this point. Which then leads us into the first of two just wild double evictions. Big Brother 15 has some of the best double evictions in the history of the show. The first one is this double eviction where Aaron wins the HOH. And she nominates Jesse and Spencer, the two easy pawns.
Block stars.
Yeah, because like what else are you gonna do? You know, Jesse is the newest, house pariah because of her being against Amanda. And Spencer is an easy pawn. Aaron also wins the veto. And so she has all the power. And that's when now a lot of this work has been done by Andy, who has been pushing the Judd target. A lot of this work has been done by Helen, who was also on board with this idea. Amanda never trusted Judd very much either. And so Helen goes up to Aaron in the midst of the double eviction, and she's like, would you be willing to backdoor Judd? And Aaron says no. And then says, well,
actually,
can we talk?
I call this episode Judd's funeral because and not in the same way, obviously, as Dan's funeral, but I don't think, and I maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think since this eviction that I've seen anybody voting, like so many people voting out somebody with so much remorse. It's like they vote out Judd, and it's like taking old Yeller out back. It's like, we gotta do it. And Judd's sitting there just like a deer in the headlights. Like he sees it moving around him and he can't do anything. He's following Elissa. Don't, Aaron, I ain't never going. It wasn't me. You got to believe me, Amanda. And they're just like, ooh, Judd, it's not great. It's not great. It's like he has a spider on his face and they're like, yeah, there's nothing you can do. There's just nothing he can do. They're crying as they vote him out. Like afterwards, they're sobbing like they didn't do it. Like they're like, oh my God, I can't believe we voted Judd out.
It's a perfect example of what will often happen in the Big Brother house, which is that for a couple of weeks now, they've all been building Judd up as this like evil mastermind who's been lying and running around the house and doing a lot of the things that Andy is doing. And how devious that is, and how he deserves to go out. And then when they're confronted with the reality of it, with very little time to like actually process it, and Judd is just sitting there teary-eyed, like, guys, like, what, I thought we were working together. Anybody, like, what is and you're forced to confront the fact that, like, yeah, I kind of just made all that shit up.
Yeah, we made it up. He
We
actually is
kind of
not a
just demonized
mastermind.
this guy, and here's the actual guy in front of us, and we are about to shoot him in the head.
Yeah. Yeah. And then it's like Flirtmance, Aaron as well that's doing it. You know, it's like it's just so many layers. But you're right. If he's playing almost like a mirror image game of Andy, just imagine if one day Amanda was like, Andy, it's you. He would be like, What? What are you talking about? Like, I've been doing what are you like you have me. What are you? And then he goes to Helen, like, Helen, babes, we got this. What about? And he's like, nah, not you either. You know, he had nowhere to turn.
And this is how this all works though. Like they're all in tears voting him out. They feel so bad. So what do you do at that point? How do you resolve that emotionally? You go, you know what? The fact that we felt so bad
It
only
proves it.
proves how good of a decision that was.
Yeah, we stand by it. We have to. I mean, he
Only
he would
proves
have
that we
won the
made the
game.
right decision and we shouldn't feel bad.
He would have won the game. And people started saying, "Huh, they really didn't like Judd getting voted out. What if what if we just brought him back? What if that happened? What if we'll
Very
talk about it
famously,
later."
Judd had the bear shirt. Everyone loved his bear shirt. And this is also where you get one of Helen's famous memes about like, you're, Amanda, or Aaron, you're just like Janelle. You did such a good job, really hyping Aaron up. Really, again, still feeling like she is the Dr. Will to Aaron's Janelle, thinking that she has full control over this piece that she's using to take these shots at Judd first, and now she will be starting to set her sights onto Amanda. She got this taste of blood with Judd. The next shot to take is Amanda, and wouldn't you know it, the next HOH is Andy. And that's perfect for Helen because Andy is one of her closest allies, along with Elissa. And if she can get Andy to take the shot that she just got Aaron to take on Amanda this time, then the game falls into place for Helen. So she says to Andy, who is fresh off of his win, let's do it. Let's take the shot. And Andy says, ooh, maybe. I don't know if it's the time yet. And then he goes to Amanda and he
Nah.
says, you'll never guess what Helen's trying to get me to do.
Yeah, and America is raging. Okay, like what the? It's like Andy. But from Andy's point of view, he's like, if Helen is willing to come after the mob boss herself and try to use me to do it of all people, like what? Are you crazy? Then what's to stop Helen from coming after me? She seems like a person who's willing to take big swings. Where a lot of people were afraid to say Amanda's name. They were treating her like she was Lord Voldemort or something. And now Helen's like, hey, Andy, it's time. It's time for you to do my dirty work. And he's like, all right, cool, bet, Amanda, you wouldn't believe this. And so, yeah, things start to blow up. Now, there's definitely some other things going on. Jesse has been in talks about the Amanda insurrection as well, Elissa. And so it's kind of like the three of them are like the faces of this. And Helen will go and do a thing that I really enjoy from Helen. As much as I was frustrated with Helen and her willingness to play with everybody, when she is faced with throwing Jesse under the bus, she does not hesitate. She does not stutter. She goes directly to Jesse and makes the biggest scene. Like, Jesse, how dare you try to accuse me of going against Amanda? Jesse, you awful. Jesse, like, girl, you did. I swear you did. You was there. I think at one point Jesse even says, "Do you think you think I got the numbers to come after Amanda? Stop it. Stop playing." You know, it was very clear that Helen's back was against the wall because Andy was not willing to play ball.
And this is important when we talk about Andy as a rat floater. We've now firmly established that he's a floater and that he's a rat. But a huge portion of this, and the reason I think that we will often distinguish between his game and June's is that we talked about this with June, that none of what she was doing was really a secret. There were a couple of things that she kept under wraps that she exaggerated or tried to keep less exaggerated. But people pretty much saw what she was doing. Andy, on the other hand, was always under the radar, never caught floating, never caught ratting until it was too late for Helen. Helen did eventually see it, but it was just too late. And part of the reason why is that Andy was very good at passing information off as others having done. Like when Andy rats something out, he's always making sure that somebody else knew and could have done that, or gets the other person to take the heat for it or do it themselves. So like in this case, he's the one ratting out Helen to Amanda and McCrae, but he's doing so in a careful way. He's not telling them everything Helen's saying. He's not giving them word for word instructions or recitations. He's just letting them know that she's trying to get him to take out big targets. Who's a big target? Must be them, right? Now that can be a surefire way of determining that somebody's withholding information from you if they're being vague like that. But like the way that he did it was working. And in the meantime, there were other people that could then Amanda and McCrae could go to question, like Jesse. And then Jesse, who's like, trying to save herself that week, is going to fully rat out the rest of the Helen stuff. And so now in Helen's eyes, Jesse is there ratting them out. She's at various points in the season worried that Elissa might be doing it, but it's never Andy, because he always is in full control of the pipeline of information that he's giving to the person he's ratting out and to the person he's ratting them out to, and the other people involved that can take the heat for him doing that. And of course, this is a good time to also mention that one of the ways that he knows all of this stuff is that he is everywhere in the house. He very famously had a strategy of planting personal items in various rooms so that he'd have an excuse to go into those rooms to grab that item. And if he needed to stay in that room to talk to those people, he could. And if he didn't, that was just like his way of checking without seeming like he's checking. Other people have tried to replicate this and gotten caught because they're too obvious, or people remember that Andy did it. But it worked really, really well for him in this season. And this is the week where I think some of the audience started to finally see, wait a minute, is Andy doing something right? Because we get this famous montage when Andy wins the HOH of every single person in the house saying, I'm so happy Andy won. He's a close friend of mine. This is great for me. And can't be true of everyone. And so he does the easiest thing possible, which is nominate the two Pawn Stars, Jesse and Spencer. Much to Helen's chagrin, because she's like, come on, Andy. It seems like you're picking a side right now. And he's like, I'm not picking a side. And she's like, okay.
But he is.
But he is
picking a side. He is picking a side.
Yeah.
He's not doing what Helen wants. Amanda and Helen both think that Andy will do what they want, what's best for them. And that is not the case. Andy is going to do what's best for him, and what's best for him is making sure Amanda's still in the game for a little bit longer. Now, your point about the montage, right, of everyone basically being like, I love Andy. Andy would never put me up. I feel so good about Andy, blah, blah, blah. That is one of, if not the biggest smoking gun of Andy's good gameplay that the show will give you. Because the show does not show Andy a lot. I don't know if they just wouldn't show the Goof Troop because they didn't want to get sued by Disney or something like that. But a lot of his alliances weren't on screen heavily as like like Andy and crew, right? It wasn't like, okay, he's not in the diary room throwing up hand signs and stuff like that. That's not the stuff you get from Andy. So when you talk about Andy as a winner, knowing that a lot of people aren't really familiar or fans of his game, if they're like, Andy played a bad game, you can point to this week and say, how? How was he playing a bad game when literally nobody would ever have put him up in this far into the game? We're 2 votes into the jury already, and everyone's looking at Andy as their number one ally. They has not been burned by him, and are not looking to target him or talking to him as a GOAT. This is a good moment for him, and also just bad campaigning from Helen's point. Like as someone who is trying to get Andy to do her bidding, she's kind of leaning into like, but Amanda and McCrae suck. Like they're the bad people, right? Like we're the good people. You should be coming with me. And Andy's like, girl, we've been backstabbing people together. If you think they're bad, when do you get a little to what I've been doing? So it just all her pleas are falling on deaf ears, and this is potentially outing Andy as someone she doesn't have, and somebody he's going to have to figure out how to deal with later on.
Yes. And one alliance that is starting to take shape here as well, I think it's this week, that I think makes the episodes, is the 3 a.m. alliance.
Yeah, it does.
Which is Andy, Amanda, Aaron, and McCrae. 3 A's and an M. They call themselves the 3 a.m. alliance. And this is, of course, crucial, at least for the short term, that basically they are going to pull Aaron out of Helen's influence and into theirs. This is key for Andy in particular, because Helen is starting to get suspicious of Andy, that he's not going after Amanda. And Andy feels more comfortable going into the end game with Amanda and McCrae, who are much bigger and more obvious targets than Helen at that point. Plus, like, again, like if Helen's pushing him to make this move this week, Whereas Amanda and McCrae are a little more okay with him making a smaller shot, then he's going to go in that direction because that's just better for his long-term game. And ultimately plays this week really well, pulling in Aaron away from Helen and setting themselves up for the following week where Aaron is going to win and take Helen out. But before that, we should talk a little bit about our evictee here, a little bit more about, I should say, Jesse. Who really just like, I think Andy says to her, like, I dragged you along in this game and I couldn't take you any further.
I could not utilize you anymore for my game. And so I dragged you as long as I could. And now I cannot. And I had to dispose of you. But I hope you respect the game move. I love you. That's basically the timbre of Andy's goodbye messages from the jury segment on. People talk about a lot of the masterful moves he makes, but Andy very, very clearly outlines, hey, I like you as a person, but I could not use you for your game. Hope you understand. Love you. Goodbye.
Great example of like the opposite of the Paul approach or the, say, Matt approach, Matt Klotz, where it's like, yeah, just own it. Just own it. And he has a dominating jury vote performance. So, but yes, Jesse goes out here, often remembered fondly, I think, from fans of season 15. They really like Jesse, but ultimately did not have much sort of motion in the game.
Jesse's funny. I remember in one of the early episodes, she comes in and she's like, yeah, girls just don't like me because I'm so pretty, obviously. And like, since I'm the prettiest person here, like, that's why the girls don't like me. I was like, oh, Jesse, you got to chill, man. You got to chill. She's one of the other people who kind of make it through the season unscathed for the most part, right? Like, no one's really holding on to any ire about Jesse. But she just goes out here as a person that Andy can take out without getting a lot of blood in his hands. He uses Spencer as a block star, Jesse as a block star, and neither one of them finds it too suspicious that they're on the block because that's just where they be at. And then he goes and he removes her from the game, and she has basically no allies to turn to be mad at him. So it's a great move.
Mm-hmm. So Aaron wins this next HOH, and of course, her initial sights are on Elissa, who has been out for her blood forever. And so it only makes sense for Aaron to go after Elissa. But of course, Amanda is going to come in with a pitch that no, you need to put up Helen next to Elissa, not somebody like Spencer or something like that. Because you can't give the opportunity for Helen to win the veto and take Elissa down, because then you're screwed, right? Then who do you nominate? We're taking a Spencer. Like, we need to make sure that one of them leaves. You need to nominate both. And she's kind of reluctant, but Andy comes in. He also reinforces this idea. This is the smart thing to do. And then once you get Helen on the block, now it's like, well, we kind of got to send Helen home, right? You kind of betrayed her. Remember, Helen has been her mentor this whole time. Helen is the one that initially brought her in, who has been sort of in Helen's mind, at least, controlling the puppet strings on the Aaron puppet. And then she comes to find out when she is nominated by Aaron, I've been yoinked. They yoinked away Aaron from me, and now I am on the other side of this, and I am going to take the hit on this. And that's exactly what happens. Elissa wins the veto. Spencer goes up in her place, and Helen is voted out.
Yeah. Helen is one of the people who she kind of gets big move-itis throughout the game. I think she's a big fan. She comes in knowing that she wants to take big swings, and she plays a really strong, aggressive game. But she is also very sharky in a way that, like, they all know that Helen thinks that she's the big bad wolf here. The same way that they're looking at Amanda. They look at Amanda like a mob boss that's kind of like overbearing and that will like get her hands dirty. They look at Helen like almost like Littlefinger, where she's kind of like, yeah, she's
like the corrupt governor of a city.
Yeah, it's that she's in politics, right? Like, so it's like it makes sense that she's able to like, no, I'm not taking away your funding. It's just,
exactly.
Like, it's not gentrification. It's just we're moving these new businesses in because this area
working
really
with Aaron is a necessary evil.
Right. Yeah. It's like sometimes it's a means to an end. Like, Helen is willing to play ball. And Helen is going to go down as a legend in Big Brother history, I would say, but not prior to this. I think right now she's just Helen, but she will come back as even more in just a little bit.
Yeah. So Helen goes out here, and that brings us to a big HOH competition where the past 4 evictees, Candace, Jesse, Helen, and Judd, are going to compete alongside the current house guests. This is the first jury buyback, and this is, Erin's worst nightmare because not only does Judd end up coming back, the person she evicted in the double eviction, but Elissa wins the HOH herself, having just lost Helen, with Erin having just betrayed Helen to evict Helen. If Elissa needed any more reason to want Erin out, she's wanted Erin out this whole game. Now Erin has just most recently betrayed Helen, taken Helen out of the game, and Elissa is upset. She's also upset at Andy.
Mm-hmm.
She's also upset at Amanda. She's upset at everyone. She's alone in this game, and she's mad at Andy for voting Helen out and betraying her. She's mad at Erin for being Erin and betraying Helen, and she's mad at Amanda for being the mob boss who pushed this entire thing in the first place. And so she has plenty of targets. The only person she's not looking at is Judd because he's innocent. He just came back into the game.
Yeah, but how did he come back into the game, Taran? What circumstances? Yeah, we're gonna talk about it. That's why I signed up for this. F that racism stuff. I didn't want to talk about that. I didn't want to talk about none of this stuff. Taran, you saw it. You seen the clip. You seen the footage. Tell me it ain't true, Taran. Tell me Helen wasn't pushed. Because I seen it with my own eyes. Helen was pushed.
The theory is, now listen, there are actually a few different conspiracy theories from this season.
Cool.
One of which was that Amanda was the predestined winner of the season, because she was like a friend of Alison Grodner or something along those lines.
We love when her kids get on the season. Shout out to Quinn.
But the other major one, of course, is that Helen was pushed from the wall where she was trying to come back into the game. Let me see if I can show.
You can show it. It'll be okay.
Some
YouTube
of
won't
this
take us down.
footage here.
Yeah. They knew. They knew that her power. Up. They knew.
So this is Helen on the wall, and here we go. She is about to fall. And then
she's not about to fall. She's actually fine.
And there she falls.
Who was
right?
that?
So, but you can see, you can see in the background behind her, there's some movement happening.
Someone pushing her.
So, like, what's going on? Was she pushed from her spot?
Because she was
on the wall by this mysterious figure behind her. And quite honestly, if you look at the footage, it's pretty conclusively no.
I mean, I see a person pushing her, so I don't know what you're talking about.
However, I would say that that then the conspiracy theory evolves, because it's like, is it realistic that she got pushed? Perhaps not.
Okay.
But instead, was this a signal? Was she tapped on the leg? Hey, this is your time to drop.
Like she pushed herself.
Mm-hmm.
Hold on. I think you're onto something, because Helen maintains that she wasn't pushed. And for years, I've been thinking, well, Helen, why are you lying to us? Because we saw that you was pushed. Like, so what do you gain from this? But if she was in cahoots, if she was in the payroll, if she was, because now her being a corrupt governor,
she wheels and deals. She made a deal, perhaps.
She made a deal. She's
on the payroll now.
Okay. I changed my stance. Put it on my tombstone. Helen wasn't pushed. Helen pushed herself. Helen pushed herself. Hashtag Helen pushed herself.
A paid actor. Controlled opposition.
Yeah. She just happened to know Andy before the season. She just happened to get pushed. Helen pushed herself. I don't know. I've always, of all the Big Brother conspiracy theories, this is the one I'm loudest about. I stand by it. I was watching that wall competition.
Let's just watch it one more time with that in mind.
We did different angles. Look. Tap tap. Yep, there it is. Because we've seen him. If you're listening to this,
widening.
Look at the wide view. Because they needed to let you know Look at that. You could see the person right there, Taran. Who was that?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Who was that then?
Mm.
Yeah. Helen pushed herself.
We may never know the truth.
I know the truth. She pushed
Yeah.
herself. Yeah. That's okay. Helen's a legend because of this. She was pushed and or pushed herself, and it changes the trajectory of this entire season because we knew Helen was coming back to shake shit up.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Instead, Judd wins that side of the competition. Elissa wins the rest. And Elissa goes straight at Aaron. She wants Aaron gone. She basically threatened Andy, if you don't vote for Helen to stay, I'm gonna nominate you. And ultimately Andy needed to, do what he had to do there. It was like, what are the chances that she's really gonna win and also follow through on that threat?
Yeah, and who could have guessed that like one of these people that I've backstabbed and betrayed on the way out and outed my entire game to, and their goodbye messages will be coming back, right? Like this is the first time that this has happened. So again, coincidence? Maybe, but Andy wasn't the most beloved character, so I would be shocked if they made the call.
That really doesn't get talked about enough. Andy was brutal and honest and really exposed a lot in his goodbye messages. And they showed them live on the episodes and then had these people not only have a chance to come back into the game, but also like were up on the wall and could chat for a long time. Like there was so much they could have exposed. And it's very lucky for him that never really hurt him much.
They were colluding as well in the jury house. They were in the jury house saying, okay, whoever comes in has to go after Amanda. Whoever comes in has to go after Aaron. Like Judd and Jesse were all in on, if I get back in the house, I'm coming after Amanda. When Jesse jumps off the wall or falls off the wall, she's like, F you, Amanda. Amanda goes, what did I do? Because she doesn't know that they've been in the house colluding against her. She doesn't know. She does now. And so, yeah, the fact that we magically come up with this amazing concept of a jury buyback, right? As Andy is playing one of the more sneaky, underhanded games that is not loved by America and that we haven't been showing on the TV show. It just feels a little fishy to me that's when we're like, all right, bring in Helen, like, and then like, no, don't bring in Helen, bring in Judd, like tap Helen on the foot. She can't come in, I don't know. It's just a little convenient to me that we now have invented something that we will see play out in plenty of seasons of Big Brother moving forward.
So Elissa wins and she wants to go after Aaron. She nominates Aaron next to McCrae. And the idea here is that McCrae is more likely to win the veto than somebody like Amanda or even Andy, and therefore less likely that Aaron will be able to take herself off the block and she'll be able to take Aaron out of the game. Now, Amanda, of course, is not happy with this. She pushes hard against herself being nominated, against McCrae being nominated. And it just does not work very well. And then over the course of this week, Amanda is just struggling to play ball with Elissa. She's trying to play nice, but she's so mad at her. And this relationship quickly starts to deteriorate. And Elissa starts to realize, like, I'm just so sick of Amanda. Like, do I even want Aaron gone over Amanda at this point? Like, what if I make a deal and Amanda and Aaron comes up and proposes, like, hey, I know this is, essentially like I'm on the line here, but I can read the writing on the wall. Like, what if you backdoored Amanda instead? Like, what if you worked with me? And Elissa kind of buys into this, and she kind of starts to think, like, maybe I do. Maybe I want Amanda gone. She is the bigger target. Like, she's the bigger threat. I've been after Aaron for so long, but like, yeah, maybe. I think she even says in the diary at one point, like, I can't believe I'm saying this, but like, I think I might actually want Amanda gone even more than I want Aaron gone.
Yeah, she goes, and I'm sorry for being bipolar about this, because the producers are like mouth on the floor, like, I'm sorry, what? And it's not the first time that this will happen, where someone will go completely, or I guess I will say the last time, where someone will go completely against their entire, like their entire mantra. Helen being one of those people who are like, maybe Aaron ain't so bad. But here, this is like, hey, Aaron sucks, but Amanda is personally attacking me to the point where I just cannot deal with her. I think I need to get her to go right here. And she nearly does. But one thing people don't give credit to Amanda for throughout the season is that they don't think she can win competitions. But she does. She managed to get a couple vetoes throughout the season.
Yeah, so basically what happens is that the plan comes into place. That Elissa, if she wins the veto, she'll take down Aaron. If Aaron wins the veto, she'll take down herself. Put up Amanda. Amanda next to McCrae. And who's on board with this plan? One, Andy Herron, who's like, perfect. We just took out Helen, and now Elissa will take out Amanda for me. This is beautiful. It's a great plan for Andy. He gets to like join this new group revolting against Amanda and McCrae. He gets to vote out Amanda while maintaining his relationship with McCrae. And everything goes really, really well for him, right up until Amanda herself wins the veto. And this is worst case scenario for Andy, because now Amanda takes McCrae down and Elissa has to choose a replacement. And the only real option left to guarantee that her backup target, Aaron, goes home is Andy. The person she did promise she would put on the block if he didn't vote for Helen to stay.
He should have been on the block already. She already should have got him already. So, he was on borrowed time. And Andy at this point is finally seeing some heat. Now, there's a 0% chance he will go home next to Aaron, but you should always be concerned when you put up on the block, especially post veto, because you don't have a lot of chance to save yourself. And some crazy things can happen in this season, as we've already seen prior to this. Like big swings can happen in this season. So he should be a little worried, but he's in a really good spot as far as the votes and having them. But this is also where Andy starts to look at like, oh, I'm kind of like next in line after McCranda. And this is okay, but they're always going to save each other over me. Amanda saves McCrae knowing that Andy is the replacement nominee. So it's kind of like, oh, I probably need to start looking at some other inroads to really solidify my spot here. And that's where Andy kind of officially jumped ship on the Amanda McCrae alliance. I think this is where he starts to look at maybe some of these other people who were looked at almost as floaters or not really having the power, who were kind of left when Helen in the void, the power vacuum when Helen left. Spencer, Gina Marie, those people. How can I align with them, Judd as well, and kind of solidify myself a better spot in case this obvious pair of Amanda and McCrae is ever targeted again?
Well, yeah, I mean, he has to pivot here because Amanda and McCrae just like when Andy finally stopped running defense for them, and the hammer was about to strike, they managed to both be safe via competition. And so all of a sudden, like the plan to just like let them be taken out by somebody else doesn't work. Now he really needs to go into overdrive to make something happen without blowing up his own spot. And that's when they form the Exterminators. So again, what happens here? He gets nominated next to Aaron, and while dealing with the Exterminator stuff, he has to also make sure that he stays. He has to make sure that he maintains Amanda and McCrae's vote here, and he does so by helping expose Aaron for pitching that Amanda should go home. Aaron, who is just fighting for her own life, is now seen as less trustworthy to Amanda and McCrae than somebody like Andy, who's been with them the whole time and was working for them, whereas Aaron was duplicitous this week and was trying to get Amanda out to save herself. And so that's a good line of argument to keep Amanda and McCrae on board. And they're saying we trust Andy more than Aaron. And at the same time, he's then running to the other people, minus Elissa, and creating this new anti-Amanda and McCrae alliance, as if it's the first time that this has been brought up. It's like Andy's like, you know what? I'm sick of them running the show. I think it's time to strike. And they're like, yes, Andy, you're totally right. Let's do this.
Yeah, because it's the first time it's been brought up to this particular group of people in this iteration.
But the first time that Andy's given the green light.
Yeah, exactly. But like deep down in the jury house, Helen's like, "What the hell?" Like so many people are like, "What, Jesse?" It's like, "Excuse me, what are you talking about? We've been trying to get this going for a while, but now it's okay." Because Andy's like, no, I have an out. I could go with these people. Amanda and McCrae are definitely going to get targeted. And then of these people, I'm closest with Judd of anybody left. When Judd comes back in the house, Andy immediately goes and makes an alliance with him and kind of like, hey, you can't trust the rest of them. I'm your guy. Let's stick it out. Gina Marie and Andy were pretty close, or at least closer than Gina Marie was with Spencer. And Spencer and Andy had been close throughout the entire game. So he kind of was in a spot where he was all those people's number one ally. And Amanda and McCrae had each other. And then Elissa seemingly is floating on the outside of that. but will make a
Elissa
very interesting choice.
tried to make a deal with Judd to be like, hey, you just got voted out by everyone. You're back in. I'm alone now. Let's be each other's number ones. And he like entertained that, but ultimately was swayed back into the fold by Andy, who he didn't even realize was kind of the author of his demise previously, because in Judd's eyes, it was Amanda and Helen that were pushing that, and Aaron. And he didn't see that Andy had put in a lot of groundwork to make that happen in the first place because he had stayed so under the radar. So yeah, Andy was able to scoop Judd back up. And again, another thing that Andy did really well is, despite not being a majority leader player himself as a floater, he's like a very individual player. He really, really was good at leveraging majorities, leveraging numbers to help convince people to do things. So, instead of Judd siding with Elissa, who's alone, he can side with Andy, and with Andy comes Gina Marie and Spencer, and now he's part of a big group again, and he names the alliance the Exterminators. And this is again a key part of it. We've been talking about like the relationships that Andy has, but like these really come into play. As you mentioned, he's had this great relationship with Spencer for a while, because they've been able to chat strategy, and now because of Andy and this whole situation, Spencer's finally able to be part of a big, powerful majority again. He's had this good connection to Gina Marie this whole time. Let me tell you, this is something that really came out in the final two speeches, of course, but like this is something that like was kept in the back pocket. You might have noticed we haven't really talked about Gina Marie at all season long, because she's been mostly irrelevant to the conversation. She hasn't won anything. She hasn't been a part of any alliances. But the one person that has made sure to never stop talking to her, to never let the relationship fade away, is Andy. And so when he goes to Gina Marie, she's like, let's go. It's me and Andy to the end. That's what we've been doing this whole time. And so this group comes together. They're super excited. They exclude Elissa. They exclude Amanda and McCrae. They vote out Aaron. And wouldn't you know it, Gina Marie ends up winning that next HOH. But of course, we should talk some more about Aaron, who was voted out here. It really did make a valiant effort, a valiant attempt to survive this week, and would have if not for Amanda winning that veto. But ultimately, this is her time. Won a bunch of competitions, but had quite a memorable exit interview, Chappell.
Oh yeah. So this doesn't happen often, but because of Big Brother 15 and the way it was so polarizing outside of the house, and inside the house and all over the internet, it had made itself into to the larger news medium. With Julie being the host of the talk, it came up on her talk show. Like, this was national news that Aaron was in the house saying racist things, even about Julie Chen herself. And so, as a fandom, this is where we get our first taste of blood when it comes to like live reaction to somebody doing something that we didn't like. It will then go off the deep end for BB16 with Christine. But here, this is why we know the Christine moment is coming during BB16, because we get Aaron out of the house. It's a live studio audience, and there are boos. There are boos. There's mutters. It doesn't sound like it's a tepid response at best, I guess I should say. And Julie is like, Aaron, talking to her about Gabe. And Aaron obviously has no clue that this stuff has made it outside. I guess production has not told her about the things.
Okay. Right. Like, that's what she says. Right. But like,
right.
She's acting as if nobody's said this to her in the house,
Oh,
or that this wasn't a topic of conversation in the house. Like, because listen, I do believe that she didn't expect this to be a big thing, because I fully believe that she thought she would be protected by the edit and that she'd be protected by production. I fully believe that. In fact, I think she said in interviews after the fact that she thought that if she had chosen to do a different show like The Real World, that she would have been protected in the edit and it wouldn't have been a big deal. And so I fully believe that she thought that would happen. But for her to act like, what are you talking about? Racist comment? Yeah. I don't even know what I'm just feeling so ambushed by this, is I think such an overplay of that.
Yeah. Now looking back, I'm looking at Julie Chen kind of crazy. Like looking back, like, damn, this is some wild stuff for you to do. But also in the moment and knowing the magnitude of the racist remarks and the way that Aaron was acting in the house, I'm like, let the party keep going. Like keep the party going. We gotta air her out. And Julie goes off to ask Aaron, like, so in the house, people brought to your attention that you made some racist comments or things that might be construed as homophobic or sexist and blah blah blah. What do you have to say to that? And Aaron's like, oh no, if I offended anybody, I didn't really mean that, and I don't really. That's not how I am. XYZ. And Julie's like, well, I'm glad you said that because I have some notes here. She pulled out her little index cards and she's like, yeah, Candace is so black that if it was dark in the room, you couldn't see her. That was you. Helen needs to go eat some rice. Oh, okay. Also, throw some slurs here at Andy too. So you know how you offended all of these. Like we got all of that stuff. Also, I'm Asian too. So Helen, go eat some rice. What you trying to say? It's very much like now what? And Aaron's like, oh, that's not how I mean, I didn't mean to y'all gotta believe me. I mean, I'm from Texas. Like, what do you mean? I'm from Texas, right? Like, hey, come on, y'all. I don't know. And the audience is laughing at her. She goes, I don't remember saying that. And so like you see the Elissa gif in the background, like ma'am, girl, go to hell. So again, I think that the show handles this very poorly. I think this is bad behavior from the show. You don't do people like this, regardless. They awful people. Awful things will happen to them on their own. You don't have to be the one to come wield the sword like this. You could have stepped in a long time ago and made her stop saying racist stuff, and you didn't. Instead, you wanted to be like us, the fandom, who is not beholden to any type of rules or regulations, and smack her over the head with what she did. When in reality, this could be held a lot more. And I'm not saying for her benefit. I'm talking about in general. You step in and shut down the bad behavior so that you don't have to then blindside somebody and embarrass them on TV. Because if you think that's going to stop them from being racist, that's probably going to make it worse. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you thought they didn't have nothing good to say, do you think they're going to really take any learning opportunity from this because you shamed them? Now, again, the shaming, leave that to us, the fandom. But I appreciated Julie for saying something. But it was just far too little too late. And I think that Aaron will go on and suffer a lot at the hands of her own actions. Everything that happens to her from here is a combination of Aaron doing something on TV and that the fandom standing up and saying, we won't allow it. She will find out later on like ET, Entertainment Tonight, that she has lost her job as a model. In the middle of the interview, Taran, they're like, oh, so how do you feel about being fired as a model? She goes, I wasn't fired as a model. And they're like, if you talk to your agency, and the lower third literally says fired as a model, like Aaron fired. I was like, this is awful. You know what I'm saying? Like you can meet awful behavior with awful actions or whatever, but there's something to say about like if you handle this correctly from the beginning, it doesn't have to get here. You can shut this shit down. You can remove them from the game and don't give them a platform. She will now be a legend in Big Brother history, infamous for this racist shit that they could have shut down a long time ago.
Yeah. Yeah, and that is the legacy she leaves on Big Brother for sure. But in the game, still going. And her once ally, Gina Marie, has just won the HOH. And now, in the minds of Amanda and McCrae, they feel like, okay, we're still fine. This is not great, but we're still fine. Get her to go after Elissa. Elissa, just took out Aaron. They've always been adversarial, Gina Marie and Elissa. Like, obviously, we've got some ins here. But secretly, Gina Marie is working with the Exterminators, and their plan is to evict Amanda, and their plan is for Gina Marie to nominate both Amanda and McCrae, who are blindsided at their nomination. And this is when the gears start turning for Amanda, because now I also forgot to mention that like Amanda and Elissa, we talked about how Elissa really wanted to go after Amanda and backdoor her. Once Amanda was safe, even before she was safe to some degree, Amanda really started going at Elissa very hard. The fans were very upset. There was a particular moment where like she like slammed a door open, and people were like that could have really like injured somebody. And there's lots of very, very hard feelings between the two of them at this point. And so Amanda's in trying to get Elissa nominated, blindsided at her nomination. And she's like, what is happening? For the first time in the game, I have been blindsided. I don't understand why. And the reason we know is because for the first time in the game, she does not have Andy. She does not have Andy running defense. She does not have Andy giving her information. And all of a sudden, all of the power she thought she had is gone. And she has no idea why. And it's really, really interesting to watch.
Yeah, Amanda will go on to get in fights with literally everyone throughout this season. This is her fight with Gina Marie. Prior to this, she's fought with Jesse, she's fought with Elissa, she's fought with Candace. And now that she has lost Andy, nothing makes sense to her, you know? And so we see a very different side of Amanda this week because she's got her back against the wall. Like fighting her way through this is not helping. And so she's going to have to do something a little unorthodox to get through this week. Now, Andy, on the other hand, is also acting brand new because Andy, who is known to have all the information, is now sitting there like, I don't know what's going on. You know, Amanda comes in the rooms looking to Andy, trying to figure out, like, are you in on this? And Andy's like, shit, I don't know what Spencer and them are talking about. This is news to me. And so, yeah, a very big shift from Andy as the backup to Miranda and Andy, the exterminator. And it's like, there's really nothing she could do because who would possibly be willing to play with Amanda at this point, Taran? Who could Amanda go to as a potential ally?
Yeah. And so this is what happened. To Amanda's credit, she slowly starts to like think it through, and she starts to realize, wait a minute, how in the world does Gina Marie think that, like, what is in Gina Marie's head that she thinks that this is going to happen? And she questions Andy, but she's like, are you working with her? Because like, why would she do this unless she felt like she had numbers to do this? And Andy is like, well, I don't know, don't get me inside of Gina Marie's head.
Yeah, he goes, "Oh my God, Amanda, you really think I'm like Amanda? Seriously? Like, no, Andy's playing it up. Like, Amanda, how dare you?"
And ultimately, partially out of necessity and partially because Andy does a good job, he's able to convince her, like, no, I am on your side. The other people, though, you know, we can't really say. So in Amanda's mind, she has Andy's vote and only Andy's vote. And it's clear now that even if Andy's not working with Gina Marie, that, you know, Judd and Spencer are. And that means that if those three are working against her and they have those votes, then like, how is she going to survive this this eviction?
She can't.
She needs.
Nobody would work with her. Nobody would work with her, Taran. There's nobody left in the house. You counted everybody. There's no way. She doesn't have Spencer. She doesn't have Judd. She doesn't have Gina Marie. McCrae's on the block. She thinks she has Andy. And there's no world where Elissa Slater would possibly work with Amanda. And so she's gone. This is her elimination. Goodbye, Amanda.
Yes. So McCrae wins the veto. And that puts Spencer on the block. And now all of a sudden, there's a chance, because with Spencer no longer able to vote, it's like, ooh, she made a mistake. She didn't nominate Andy. Like, what a blessing that we have Andy on our side, that he was not nominated here. That, like, okay, now if we have Andy's vote, I have McCrae's vote. We just need one more vote, or the vote will tie and Gina will break the tie and evict me. But if we have one more vote to evict Spencer, then we'll have it. We just need Judd's vote. Judd is not budging. We're not getting Judd's vote. No. It's not happening. The only other person that we can go to is the person that Amanda was tormenting less than a week before.
For like a month.
Elissa.
There's no way. This didn't happen. And this is the end of Amanda's journey. Goodbye. Amanda in the jury house, you know? That's how this
is exactly where Andy wants her. Sucks. We have 2 votes, but there's no possible way for us to get a 3rd vote. We did everything that we could. And Amanda goes to Elissa, and she makes her deal. Like, hey, I'm on the outs here.
Yeah.
There's a group that's formed. I think that I'm actually better for your game to stay in this game. After I go, you're the next biggest target. She makes a pitch, and Elissa says, that actually kind of makes sense.
You know, Andy walks into a room and he sees Amanda and Elissa talking. He's like, "Hey guys, what's going on? What's going on in here?" And they're like, "Hey, Andy, you'll never guess what happened. Elissa is gonna vote with us. I'm staying, baby. We got this." And Andy's face, the man already pale, but it looked like a ghost flew through his body. He's like, "Huh? What? Be right
That's
back."
amazing. You're gonna vote for Amanda to stay?
And he runs about that room because I know he just wanted to his worst. You think his worst fears were being on the block? No, this is worse. This is Armageddon. How did this happen? These two women who are never supposed to even be seen together are now exchanging wedding rings. Like, here, keep my engagement ring. That'll make sure I don't vote you out. And he's like, I can't break a bond like that. What are we doing? This was crazy work from Amanda. Say what you want about her, but yeah, she's got some game in her. That was a crazy move that she was able to pull off.
Yeah. And now Andy is panicking. Like, oh my God, I'm going to be exposed. This is awful. And here's like truly, I think the pinnacle, the biggest example that you can point to of like Andy's masterwork in this game. And this is truly one of the best played double evictions, I think, in the history of the show. That like, and this is why I think this is one of the reasons why you can point to Andy as an all-time winner, because like, yes, a lot of the game he spent playing a certain way. And you can say that it was playing scared. You can say that it was like, capitulate. There's different ways that you can interpret it. But when it comes down to it, when pushed back into a corner, this is what he was able to come up with. And that adaptability is so key. And this is the corner he was backed into. Like, I think a lot of players in this position would just eat the vote and hope that McRae doesn't win the next HOH. They would be like, oh, I have to just betray and hope that this doesn't happen. Andy is always working. And so in response to this situation where now all of a sudden Amanda has 2 locked in votes with McRae and Elissa, the other side needs his vote. Spencer needs his vote with Judd to tie it so that Gina Marie can break the tie and evict Amanda. But if that happens and McRae wins power, then that means Andy is like the primary target after that. It's going to be McRae and Elissa together as an alliance. And Elissa might be mad. Like, there's all kinds of potentially negative outcomes here. So he comes up with a plan. And the plan is, I'm going to vote for Amanda to leave. And we're going to pin this vote on Elissa. We're going to act like Elissa faked wanting to vote for Amanda to stay and betrayed their trust. And Spencer's like, wait, what?
Yeah.
But they put this plan into place, and this is a team effort. They all work on this. There's a ton of prep work involved into making this happen. Like, a lot of little details accounted for. Again, this is where like being active and just working hard in this game can really pay off sometimes, because this culminates in a double eviction where the vote unexpectedly ties. And it's 2 votes Amanda, 2 votes Spencer. Gina Marie stands up and evicts Amanda. And Amanda goes out blindsided. What happened? She lost a vote. And she's out there like, I really didn't think Elissa would betray me. She gave me like collateral. Like, what is happening here? And Andy says in his goodbye message, it was me.
Yeah,
I had to do it. I hope you respect it.
She's like, damn, that's crazy. Well, I'm thinking McRae's obviously going to avenge me. He's going to get Andy. That's next. Andy, you showed your hand, bud. You're probably going after this. But Taran, it's the 500th episode of Big Brother. And for the first time, I think ever, we have 2 double evictions. It's fun. It's a second double eviction.
Double eviction starts, and wouldn't you know it, McRae, having just been blindsided, wins the double eviction HOH. And now, to be clear, they like had an idea that this might be coming. Like, this is not like a fortuitous double eviction that they thought. They knew that this lie was meant for a short burst period of time where they could hopefully trick McRae in this exact scenario for exactly as long as they did. McRae wins this HOH. and they have to go full force into this. And Andy did such a good job with the prep work that the first thing that happens is that Elissa goes to McCrae and says, "Did you flip? Did
Yeah.
you vote out Amanda?"
Like, it had to be you because there's no way it was me,
It was
right?
not Andy, right?
Right. Like,
And so this is the worst thing she could have said to McCrae, who's like, "Oh, now she's trying to act like I flipped." Like, what a bold faced lie. Andy goes in. He obviously is like, Elissa must have flipped. We need to take that shot at Elissa. I can't believe she would have done this. And then equally important, he coordinates this so that Spencer and Judd and Gina Marie, they all come through and they support this as well. Like, hey, McCrae, we really think that Elissa should be the shot. And so, and McCrae, I think, has said different things about this, like how much he fully believed in the lie at the time versus how much was like just feeling like, well, I need to appease the group. But whatever it was, the combination of all of these things leads to McCrae putting up Elissa and Gina Marie together on the block in the double eviction. Andy gets off scot-free. Judd wins the veto, doesn't use it, and they send Elissa home framed for a crime she did not commit. Oof.
Yeah, this is Eric Reichenbach giving up the immunity necklace levels of just coordination. Like, people think about it as they coerced him to do a thing, but it was really an ensemble cast of all of them playing their parts. Saying different things to him to where he didn't know where to turn for the truth. In this scenario, Andy had already told them that Elissa gave the wedding ring as well. So when Gina Marie comes with this secret, like, she should not know about the wedding ring thing. So she's coming to McCrae like, yeah, and I know she's going to take the wedding. She was going to give the wedding ring, and then she was still going to vote her out because that's what she told me she was going to do. McCrae's like, damn, she did give the wedding ring. Like, so it sounds like it's adding up. And then, like you say, in the moment, McCrae is saying, like, they're on my back anyway. I have to play ball because if not, then they're probably going to come after me next time anyway. So there's a lot of reasons why this works. But ultimately, this is Andy using his alliance to protect Andy, not to protect the rest of them. This is an Andy protection play from all sides. So Spencer should honestly not even be okay with Andy doing this and getting away with it. He should be like, no, you voted with us, be with us. Like, it's fine. F it. Why should I have to fall victim, end up on the block next to Gina Marie potentially or something like that? Like, why should I have to be it? But they're all in on Andy's plan and it works flawlessly.
Yeah, I mean, and the good argument is that, like, taking out Elissa here is great for them. Is they don't want McCrae and Elissa to both make it to like the final 5, final 4 together, and be a new duo against them. That would be really bad. And so making sure to frame Elissa to take Elissa out is really good. Of course, from Andy's perspective, it's really just like, as long as I don't take the hit for this, I'm fine.
Yeah, as long as it's not me.
So that is it in a 1-2 punch. Amanda and then Elissa are both evicted from the game. Amanda, of course, we've talked plenty about at this point. Dominant force in the game. Really, I think you can credit a lot of that to Andy running defense for her. You can credit her for getting Andy to run defense for her. She comes up with a lot of plans for Andy, like, hey, you should go into an alliance with these people at this time. And ultimately nearly escapes the betrayal that Andy coordinates by flipping Elissa back over to her. But you do have to wonder, like, what happens if she doesn't have Andy, on board for so long. She was such an early target, but certainly a compelling player of the game, despite the ultimate ending. And maybe in part because of the ending.
She played such a dominant, like Iron Fist type game. It's like it's her way or the highway, and we just don't see that in Big Brother a lot. We see a lot of committee wins. Her and McCrae as a duo obviously is a big threat, but she was the alpha as far as people were concerned in that threat. It was always going to be, and McCrae will say it later on. Like, I knew if it ever came down to me and Amanda, y'all were going after Amanda first. So she just played a game that was out in front. that was loud, that was brash, and sometimes racist. But people really looked at Amanda as, like this could be a new way of playing the game for a lot of women characters moving forward. But we never get a return from Amanda, largely because one, she says some racist stuff on the show, but also Big Brother 15 is kind of persona non grata. It's like do we ever see any of these people ever again? I think they kind of dig their own grave here with their actions in this season. So yeah, pour one out for Amanda. She's good TV, if nothing else.
Yeah. And then Elissa taking this hit. This was one of those moments where like the fans were rooting for Elissa so much. But like I would say I saw a lot of like you kind of have to give it up though. That was pretty impressive. Like there were definitely a lot of people like so mad, like how dare they do that to Elissa? But there was a lot of also sentiment of like, wow, that was pretty good what they just did. But yeah, I mean, similar thing with Elissa. I think massively to her credit, massively popular player of the season, and her willingness to not only like be on Aaron's neck for so long, but also then like being willing to like work with people like Amanda, because this wasn't a situation of like, oh well, Amanda has done wrong to other people, therefore it's okay for me to work with her because the other people will still be mad with other people will still have that friction with her and it'll be beneficial for me. I have had friction. She has tormented me and she was willing to vote to keep Amanda. Was that actually good for her long-term game? Probably at that point. I mean, it was like kind of a Hail Mary. She was iced out by the Exterminators, which was brutal for her. But like, there's a lot to credit, I think, Elissa, in sort of like her time in the game and also like her ability to, she fully recognized that she was being used as a weapon early on with the MVP twist and played into it. It's good on Elissa.
But at this point, Taran, Elissa's gone. The pickings are slim for the fandom because who the hell are we rooting for to win this season? It's starting to come down to the point where we're like, is Judd? Do we want McCray to win? Like, God, we can't root for Andy. Spencer? No, never Gina Marie. Like another reason why Big Brother 15 is not looked at in a bright light, to my experience, is that the fandom doesn't really have a rallying point at this point. I think that we love to get behind a winner story, or or at least to be upsetting the power structure or whatever. And here it's kind of like, I mean, I'd be all right if all of them lost. Like it kind of felt like that at the time.
Well, I think it might have been this double eviction episode recap that Ian famously on RHAP said, I think that if Andy wins this game, he's a top 4 winner all time. And that was the first time that I had really heard somebody complimenting Andy's game. And I was like, I agree. And he got a lot of heat for that. But it was a good call. I think it was, and I think it still is, for the time at least. And so this definitely there is a contingent of the audience that is starting to turn around on Andy's game, but it is certainly not a majority at this point. And I would say that Judd is probably the next biggest fan favorite left in the game, which it's a good thing he's part of the Exterminators, because that means that, of course, McCray is the next target, so Judd should be... Oh.
Yeah, that's the thing. We all pivot to Judd. Judd's got the bear shirt. Judd's back. Can we vote for somebody who actually got voted out? Fine. We can do that. It's fine because it's Judd and we like Judd. Judd's not like, he's not as bad as the rest of them, right? Like Judd's got this. I think Judd can win it. And then Judd goes home.
Yeah, Spencer wins the HOH, nominates Gina Marie and McCray, but McCray wins the veto, preventing them from taking McCray out. And that, of course, leads to the second betrayal of Judd, the next biggest threat in the game. Of course, he's not going to nominate Andy. Andy is really locked in. Spencer at this point. Judd just makes more sense. He's too likable. All the reasons that he was evicted before. Judd takes the hit. Gina Marie, not a big enough threat. And that's curtains for Judd the second time. Not much more to say about it. The rest of the game is very straightforward from here. Andy wins the next HOH and veto, which finally sends McCrae out. McCrae, a solid performance throughout the game, really pivoting from his initial position in the moving company into this majority alliance. Helps, Amanda take control of the game, uses Amanda essentially as a shield for a long time. Really just like the biggest mistake here, of course, is that double eviction. If he's able to recognize that he has Elissa on his side and takes a shot at one of the exterminators, then he is potentially in this with a shot, especially because he wins that final 5 veto. It's a whole different ball game at that point for him, and he really does come close to potentially winning the whole thing, if not for that double eviction. So, a solid performance overall. No, like massive errors on McCrae's part, other than the big one, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I argue he's probably the second best player of the season, with Andy being number 1. Despite him going out in this spot, I think a lot of good Big Brother players will go out in a spot like this. But no, not a lot of notes from McCrae. But I will say this, Judd and McCrae going to the jury house. First 2 guys to enter the jury house. The women have been in there kicking it. And I'm sure there were fireworks, considering how much Gina Marie, Aaron, Amanda, and Candace all got along. Oh, and Helen all got along. I'm sure they were all great in there, excited to see each other before Judd and McCrae walk in and maybe temper some things. But McCrae doesn't show up until with the jury roundtable, right? And so he's there just in time to meet Dr. Will, who will try to remind these people that, look, this final 3 is Spencer, Andy, and Gina Marie. You got to vote for somebody. They all played the game differently, and they all beat you. And so you need to come up with the idea that maybe, just maybe, your idea of how to win the show is not the only way to win the show. I think Dr. Will comes in at this point and legitimizes the jury format, at least for BB15.
Mm-hmm. So Andy ends up winning the final 3 HOH. He evicts Spencer. Quite frankly, though, he's already won the game. And I think Spencer has said slightly different things about this, but like at least at the time, it was believed that both Spencer and Gina Marie are taking Andy to the final 2. And he beats them both. And so regardless, he wins this HOH and takes Gina Marie, where he crushes her in a jury vote 7-2, with Judd and Aaron being the 2 Gina Marie votes. So Spencer, though, really, I think, especially because you did start to look at like what are the positives of these people's games near the end. Spencer nominated a lot of times. I think it was 7.
Yeah, he was a block star
across
for sure.
the season. And but like he was a player who was able to play into that. In fact, some of those were volunteer spots. He recognized that trying to play this power position early on got him in a lot of trouble, and he saw eventually that he kept getting in trouble when he kept trying to play this power position, and he eventually played into being this weak nominated pawn star kind of player, and did it consciously and did it strategically to the point where it ended up working really well, and got him all the way to the end game. The issue, of course, is that you're going to have a hard time winning a jury vote generally. But really, like, I think a player that is underrated in terms of how he was able to adapt to his situations and play to his strengths and really succeed strategically in a spot where most people are not really able to have any kind of agency at all.
Yeah. Spencer, I think understood the assignment about halfway through the game. He just kind of knew that I'm going to get put on the block. But with his alliance with Andy and Andy being able to let him in on all the votes and where the numbers were going, he knew a lot of times that he was just safe. But you're right, it's not really a winning game per se. The people in the jury are going to say, well, Spencer made it this far because none of us were threatened by him and none of us wanted to actually thought he could beat us. He gets nominated 9 times in this season, which would be the record for being nominated in a single season. And that record will then be beat by Victoria in season 16, the record breaking 10 times. And so, yeah, it's a good run for Spencer, but at the same time, like, it's not really the winning game that this this particular jury is going to respect. I don't think. Like, I think that he probably loses to Andy for sure. Can he beat Gina Marie? Maybe. You know, like the fact that people were still willing to vote for Gina Marie next to Andy shows you that, you know, this jury needs to be doing stuff. You know, like I said, Elissa got to the jury house and the first thing she says is, "So we all voting for Gina Marie, right?" You know, and like I'm like, "Oh no, what?" You know, and so Spencer, I think he could have won the game. And that's saying something considering how many times he was on the block. And I think he knew what he was doing throughout.
Mm-hmm. So that of course means that Andy and Gina Marie are your final two. Andy very humorously reveals that he's had a final two with Gina Marie from day one. And they've been working together this whole time. And it's quite an obliterating jury performance from Andy. I don't think it's hard when you're up next to Gina Marie. But I think very famously he has a line about like, he's asked something along the lines of like, all season long you were saying that you'd never forgive us if you'd like lied or betrayed, if we lied or betrayed you, stuff like that. Why would we forgive you and give you our votes? And he was like, well, yeah, of course I said that. I was lying when I said that.
Right. I was lying and betraying you, but I still want you to vote for me. Duh. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he's next to Gina Marie, whose big speech is kind of more of like, hey, yeah, it's me. I'm Gina Marie. I'm from New York. I'm Italian. And so I'm sorry if I said some stuff because I'm Italian, so like, don't take that personally. But like, I love y'all. It's good to see y'all. Very happy. You can come over to my Italian household. Like, it was very much that. And then they like, okay, Andy, your speech. And he goes, okay, from week one, I knew I had to come in and do this, and this. And nobody thought I was a threat. And so I was able to do this. And I kept running stuff back to Amanda. And then I was able to do this. Like, Julie legit has to be like, all right, Andy. All right. We get it. You won. Chill out. Yeah. Like, she stops him. Like, all right, Andy. Andy, damn. She dead. Get your foot off her neck. So, yeah. Here we are. Gina Marie, she takes the L here. I have nothing to say about Gina Marie. She said some racist stuff too. I don't like it. I don't like her as a character. We don't need more racist characters on TV.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's the season. I mean, again, as you may have noted, like, this is a very long podcast, partially because we have to talk about the strategy and a lot of other stuff, but also because the strategy portion of it is also very intricate and complicated, and there's a lot that's happening strategically over the course of the season. This is a story of a dominant majority alliance coming together to take advantage of a twist to dominate the game. Yes, it is, again, as I mentioned at the start of this podcast, the seeds of that are there that grow into what eventually becomes Big Brother 16 and the Bomb Squad. But also, because there are so many people playing the game so hard, and this is also brand new and fresh, there's a lot of messiness in the strategy of it. And you have a player like Andy, who is not your dear Derek Levasseur, who is not the person that's going to be at the head of the table orchestrating all of the moves. Andy is not the mob boss. He is Wormtongue. He is the one that has to be doing the whispers in the ears and coordinating events so that he is able to rise to the top. The rat who survives the nuclear blast, the cockroach maybe, and so because of that, the game has to play out in a very different kind of way, and he is given the space and creates the space that he needs to in order to make that happen. And that makes the game pretty interesting to watch, as long as you if you are watching for the strategic landscape of things. Because even if you do like the what we've talked about, the strategy and how much that was how that went, if you don't like the characters, a lot of people will still say, I don't care though. It still sucked to watch because all of my favorites left, and I didn't like any of the people left in the game. And that's very fair. But I think ultimately the reason this podcast is so long is because there's just so much to talk about in this season, and that at least is something compared to a season where there's very little to talk about and also has lots of racism.
Yeah, because those happen. Also, Andy's game is largely underappreciated because they don't really show it on TV. It's like Andy's confessionals are often shown and then I had to go tell Amanda, it's like, or then they were about to take out Amanda, so I had to stop them. And it's like, that's not a compelling strategy for us to watch at home when you don't show all the other things that he's doing to make that happen, right? The reason why he's keeping Amanda, like you said, people thought he was just Amanda Pond, who she was just dragging to the end to kind of beat as a goat or something like that, and he was just simping for her. But in reality, the show doesn't really depict a lot of the intricacies of Andy's game. And so if you ever get a chance to go watch one of those compilations or something like that, definitely go do that if you want to see Andy's moves, because the show doesn't do it justice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that is Big Brother 15. Chappell, who should be on the poster for Big Brother?
Helen pushed herself. I have amended my hashtag. Helen pushed herself. Hashtag Helen pushed herself in the comments. Helen has to be on the poster for that reason. For that reason alone, the most iconic thing that came from Big Brother 15, aside from the disclaimer, is Helen was pushed. Second, Andy, of course, our winner here. And then, why not? Our running MVP, not America, but Elissa. I think those are my big three. And I don't think I can make an argument for anybody else. What about you?
I think Andy and Elissa are the obvious top two.
Maybe a man.
I think that I could definitely see a scenario where Helen is pushed out of the top three.
Absolutely not. If anything, she pushed herself.
I could see Amanda. I could see that. I think that's a possibility. I also could see some ground support for Jesse. I don't think it's likely, but I could see it because here's the thing. I think that being problematic is a bit of a hindrance to your ability to get on a poster. It doesn't prevent you from getting on a poster. We've seen that. But it is a bit of a hindrance. And Jessie has some of the fewest amount of problematic things weighing her down of, I think, many of the options available.
If you're gonna vote for Jesse, vote for Candace. Just stop. Don't waste your votes.
That is true.
Stop playing. What's the half measure for? Vote for Candace.
that is a very good point.
But yeah, give me Helen and give me Elissa, and then Amanda's not awful. I mean, she is awful on the show, but she's not an awful choice for the third spot on the cover. But yeah, those top two, Helen and Elissa, easily, and then of course Andy, as our winner. I think that's my three.
All right. Well, we will see what the audience decides next week when we talk about Big Brother 16. So stay tuned for that. Chappell, thank you for joining me. What do you got going on?
Thank you for having me, Taran. I got to come back for a return visit, and so I had to make sure that people knew how I felt about this ridiculous season of television. As far as what I'm going through now, I should be just coming back from Boston by the time people hear this, and so they can make sure they hopefully have attended that show. Check it out on YouTube. I'm sure it'll be there. I won't be on the YouTube though. And then subscribe to my podcast, recapkickback.com/subscribe, and show some love. Go and give me a 5-star review and be like, hashtag Helen pushed herself. I would love that. I would love to see that.
All right. Well, of course, you can find me on Twitch and YouTube, streaming, talking about things, having a good time. Check out the Tastemakers over in We Know Scripted TV, talking about lots of shows. The Last of Us is starting up, Wheel of Time, all kinds of stuff. Check it all out. You know where to find it. Thank you all so much for joining us. And of course, if you want to vote, it's robswebsite.com/BB Retrospective. That's where you vote for the people on the poster. But thank you all so much for joining us. We will see all of you next time.
This is RHAP. We know reality TV.